One Piece, I can get rewards from watching short videos. Chapter 21. After being stabbed, Zoro fell directly into the sea. The blood directly dyed half of the sea red. His two younger brothers, bounty hunters, jumped into the water to save Zoro. Luffy also attacked angrily, but was hit directly by Hawkeye. "Don't worry, he's still alive," Mihawk said calmly. The courage that Hawkeye Mihawk saw in Zoro. He thinks this is the most lacking quality among the younger generation. So just now he released all the water from the Pacific Ocean to cut a young swordsman in two. Very easy. But if you want to cultivate a rising star, more skills are needed. It doesn't hurt to be confused, one knife is just right. Get stronger, Zoro. In the years that followed, I will be waiting for you on the throne of the world's strongest. Try to surpass this sword with your tenacious spirit. Try to surpass me, Zoro. The world's greatest swordsman shouted this slogan in front of many pirates and chefs in the sea restaurant. Naruto Plain. Sasuke came to a secret cemetery. This is the resting place of the Uchiha clan. Sasuke used his only arm to hold a bouquet of flowers and slowly placed it next to Uchiha Itaka's tombstone. Once upon a time, his brother also said this when he met him. "Stupid Odoudou, continue to hate. Then with this hatred, try to surpass me." Sasuke only now understands the deep meaning and expectations contained in it. If he had understood it earlier and given more understanding and cooperation, Itaka's departure might not have been so hasty. Sasuke put his hand on the tombstone and gently brushed off the dust. After all, the Uchiha clan was positioned as a rebellious clan. It was not recognized in Konoha at all. When Tsunade became the fifth Hokage, she promised the Uchiha clan to have their own resting place. "Everything will be fine, I swear everything will be fine." Sasuke turned and left, leaving only the power of rest, leaving behind his deep back. Death God Plain. Hirako Mako put his hands behind his head and strolled around the team house. As the war was imminent, everyone was making intensive preparations, and even his usual sloppy appearance had to be restrained. Although he resumed his position as captain of the 5th Division, the ability of the mask that he had been using before was also cleared by Urahara Kisuke, so he had to adapt to his ability to fight as a pure death god. When he saw Hawkeye Mihawk on the screen and what he shouted to Zoro, he actually had some insights in his heart. Ichigo, who had not yet fully mastered the power of the Hollow, was so weak in front of him, but in order to achieve his plan of revenge on Aizen, he had to train Ichigo with the masked army to master this powerful energy, so as to enter the Hueco Mundo to fight with Aizen. So he said something similar to Ichigo at the beginning, so that he could skillfully use his mask power to surpass himself. Maybe Hawkeye Mihawk also had such expectations in his heart. After all, in the other side's world where everyone relies on the power of devil fruits, there are too few people who really study swordsmanship, apply swordsmanship, and master swordsmanship. Maybe deep down in his heart, he also wanted to leave a seedling for the sword to grow vigorously. Now, many people in the masked army, including himself, no longer rely on the power enhancement brought by the mask. But Ichigo still remembers his kindness in educating him. A few days ago, he received greetings from the medical staff. "Oh, it's really boring." Hirako Mako seemed to miss the days with Hiri. Although the two of them usually fought and quarreled, they felt that they were very happy. Now that he has regained his identity as a Shinigami, and even his original identity as the captain. But it seems that life is not so fun anymore. At the beginning, the 46th chamber had quite a few complaints about his group. They believed that Shinigami should be pure, and anyone with a little bit of hollow aura would be classified as hollow and should be directly eliminated. This ruthless judgment made Hirako Makoto doubt whether he should continue to be loyal to this group of useless old guys. "Really, it makes me want to go to the world of pirates to play. They go to the sea to adventure, which seems much better than me staying in Soul Society. Ichigo, you must continue to become stronger, not for anything else. Hueco Mundo, Soul Society, and the real world all need you." Detective Dimension. Kurobe Kaito is debugging the latest anesthetic smoke bomb in his secret room. Although he rarely adds anesthetic ingredients to his props, the gem he has recently taken a fancy to is stored in a secret place, and the bodyguards are all armed. If he does not prepare some non-lethal weapons that can subdue them in a short time, it is very likely that he will not be able to escape unscathed. The door lock of the secret room clicked, and Kurobe Kaito reflexively raised his poker gun towards the door. Seeing that it was Mr. Terai Huang Jisuk, who entered the secret room. Kaido put down the gun. Old man, you almost scared me to death. Didn't I tell you not to come in when I'm adjusting the props in the secret room? Mr. Huang's Hizua was not interrupted by Kaido's words. He put a roll of film on Kaido's table, panting. Master, there is information about the master in it. I heard that someone has seen someone who looks like the master in the Kyoto area. When Kaido heard about this, he hurriedly picked up the film on the table. He has been looking for the murderer who killed his father that year, and he even made a huge fuss to announce that the Kaido kid, who made jewelers all over the world tremble in fear, has returned to the arena. The first Kaido kid was Kaido's father Kurobatoiki. 8 years ago, Kurobatoiki died mysteriously. He left all his property to his son. However, because the scene of death was too strange and the body of Kurobatoiki himself was not found, there was always a knot in Kaido's heart. He believed that his father was not dead, but hid to avoid being found and killed by the mysterious organization. Especially after seeing the special case of Conan's body becoming smaller, this impression was deepened. Although the chances are very slim, Kaido is willing to believe in any possibility. At this time, the screen on his ceiling happened to play the declaration about Hawkeye my hawk. Wait for me, Dad. I will surpass you and become the strongest Kaido kid. I will make those mysterious organizations that accept ill-gotten gains and attempt to harm the world lose themselves in my magic. Kuai Shao was so excited that he accidentally crushed the anesthetic smoke bomb in his hand. Instantly, a large amount of anesthetic gas spread in the secret room. Mr. Huang's Hizua was the first to faint because of his old age. Kaido quickly covered his mouth and nose and rushed out of the secret room. Next time you use anesthesia, make sure to do it in a well-ventilated area. This was the last thing Kaido said before he passed out. Chapter 22. Just when everyone thought that Zoro was unconscious, facing the concern of his younger brother and Usopp, he resolutely raised his only remaining sword, Wado Ikemonji. The knife he held upright. It's like my last unyielding spirit. Due to excessive blood loss. So Zoro stuttered and breathed weakly when he spoke. If you don't listen carefully, I can't really hear what he's saying. Luffy, did you hear that? I heard. I'm sorry if I made you feel uneasy. If I can't become the best swordsman in the world, it will definitely make things difficult for you. As Zoro spoke these words, the wound on the chest is gushing blood. If an ordinary person lost this amount of blood, he would have died many times over. But Zoro still relied on his tenacious spirit to persevere, insisting that he finish his words. I will never lose again. Before defeating him and becoming the best swordsman in the world, I will never lose again. The last sentence, he almost shouted out with all his strength. Do you have any comments, One Piece? From this moment on, Zoro finally decided to help Luffy wholeheartedly. Let him be the freest man on this sea. Become the pirate king who conquers the Grand Line. Before that, I have to accumulate enough strength. Become the best in the world. This is the responsibility he bears. It is also the life goal he set for himself. From now on, he will no longer be the idiot who only wants to be the first without any purpose. There will be no more blind, empty slogans. It is a goal that we have a firm belief in and work hard for. Luffy understood what he said. So he smiled. I have absolutely no opinion. This sincere brotherly love. This unbreakable team spirit. Even the lone wolf Hawkeye was moved. This laid the ideological foundation for him to establish the Cross Guild later. Spy Dimension. Anya didn't even watch her favorite spy cartoon. Instead, she held her toy penguin and stared at the ceiling of the room. Although she didn't understand why those people were fighting, the collision of souls between men moved Anya deeply. She felt that although her father was the world's #1 spy, Dusk, she thought so herself, the affection and love he expressed to her were real. Then Anya had to respond to this sincere feeling. So she rushed directly to the bedroom with the penguin doll. At this moment, Lloyd was making dinner, and Joel was helping his husband Lloyd. She washed cucumbers skillfully one by one. Seeing Anya rushing out of the room, the two of them subconsciously turned their heads to look. While holding Bon's paw, she also held the penguin doll's hand. Gigi, I want to be the greatest spy in this country, do you have any objection? This sentence made Lloyd feel very nervous, thinking that his identity might be exposed, but then he thought that Anya might have watched too many cartoons about spies. So he wiped his hands with a towel and gently walked to Anya's side. Anya's ideal is great. Dad will definitely help you realize your ideal, but what you have to do now is to successfully pass the test of Eden College. Become an elite student there. This will help you achieve your dream. It will bring you closer to the person you want to be in your mind. It has to be said that Lloyd, as an ace agent and the top spy, is a god-level figure in taking care of children's psychology. After all, he is proficient in 27 languages and has doctoral degrees in more than 13 disciplines. This level of pedagogy and psychology skills is just entry level. Seeing Anya's blood boiling at what he said, she immediately ran back to her room. She took out the homework assigned by the school and began to write furiously. Seeing this scene, Yoel, who was next to him, wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes with his apron. What a warm family! Can I be a qualified mother? I must work hard. At this time, Lloyd came to Joel. Come on, let's continue making dinner. Lloyd habitually pulled Joel's hand, causing the ruthless Queen of Thorns to blush. A cloud of steam rose above her head. Monster Dimension. When Genos saw the oath Zoro made to Luffy, he immediately ran to the side of Saitama, who was playing video games with King, who came to visit his home. However, when it comes to the talent of playing games, Saitama was completely crushed by King. No matter how fast Saitama's hand speed was, he couldn't beat the Calm King's character to low health. Instead, the opponent used a set of tricks to empty the health bar of Saitama's character. Saitama, who was already annoyed, saw Genos running to him with excitement. Genos, what's wrong with you? Is there something wrong with the parts that the doctor replaced for you? Genos made a Superman pose. I know, Mr. Saitama. You must have a dream in your heart, which is to become the strongest hero in this country. Don't worry, Mr. Saitama, I will definitely help you realize this dream. I will be the strongest assistant beside you. Help you kill those monsters. Seeing Genos full of blood saying such words to him, Saitama tilted his head. He felt that Genos might have a short circuit, which caused his CPU to overload. I'm just a hero who does it out of interest. It's troublesome to be the strongest. Saitama pursed his lips, his expression was very serious. At this moment, a mosquito fell on his head, disturbing Saitama's thinking. The mosquito was showing off its power above Saitama's head. Saitama's blood vessels began to burst at that time, and he slapped his bald head hard. With a snap, the huge air wave even pushed the furnishings in the house back a body. Saitama, please calm down, it's just a mosquito. Maybe the mosquito brought back some bad memories for Saitama. He said he would kill the mosquito no matter what, even if it meant destroying the whole city. But King stood up from his seat nonchalantly. He took a can of insecticide from the side and walked to Saitama's side naturally. He sprayed it lightly, and the mosquito that was originally so arrogant immediately fell to the ground and kicked its 6 legs to death. Ah, is it dead already? Saitama, who was eager to try, was confused by King's operation. He lay on the ground and looked at the mosquito that had completely lost its life, and breathed a sigh of relief. So, King, you are still very strong, at least you can kill the mosquito in an instant. King felt speechless. He didn't know why Saitama was so strong, but he was too stupid in some aspects. Forget it, let's go try out the new video game. I heard that it takes 2 people to complete it. Saitama began to move his arms. The muscle lines on his arms were clearly visible. Okay, I will be the king of games tonight. Chapter 23. The pirate governor Creek standing by. Feeling ignored. So he started shooting at Hawkeye angrily. Hawkeye doesn't tolerate the other party's bad habits. With a single blow of sword energy, all the bullets were deflected. Then he hacked the Creek's remaining foothold into pieces. Most of the Creek crew fell into the water. Zoro was lying on the boat, now dying and unconscious. Usopp took 2 bounty hunters to retrieve Nami. They have agreed to recruit 5 people to go to the Great Route together. Luffy just sent Zoro away. But he is a very powerful enemy. Creek, the pirate governor who once owned 50 huge battleships. At this moment, he brought his crew and elite fighters. Want to seize the sea restaurant? A war is about to break out. The second of the top 10 tear-jerking scenes in the world of pirates ends. There were too many tissues on Tien's desk at this time, not because he did what men often do. It was not because he practiced finger dance just now, but because of the tears that kept flowing, so that there were not enough tissues on the desk. Maybe Oda can't write a good love story, but he understands men too well. Tien looked at the oath Zoro made to Luffy in the short video, and felt the profound skills of Oda, the original author of One Piece. Just when he wanted to change the next short video, he suddenly received a message from the system. The third of the top 10 tear-jerking scenes in the One Piece world, Nami's tears. It seems that after watching the second short video, you have to claim the system reward again. Tien stopped the video and began to carefully check what the reward was. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the second mission. The scars on the back are the shame of the swordsman. The system's comprehensive rating is C, with a score of 6.5. Rewards are being distributed, please wait. Oh, this time the score is even higher than last time. It seems that this time the plot is longer than last time. There may be no other factors. Then let's see what the reward is this time. The system prompts you that your reward has arrived. Based on your performance, a cash reward of 300,000 yuan has been deposited into your bank card. Since the host has completed 2 tasks, a special reward lottery will be held. Seeing the existence of this lottery system, Tien was naturally delighted. In addition to cash, there are extra rewards. What is that? Luxury cars or jewelry and diamonds. Tien did not waste any time and immediately turned on the lottery system. A large virtual turntable appeared in front of Tien. It was densely packed with countless tiny words, but Tien's eyesight was not very good. Before putting on glasses, he could not tell what was written on it. The turntable began to turn slowly, the pointer on it did not move, and the turntable began to emit colorful light. Okay, you can stop. As Tien shouted for a pause, the huge turntable stopped in place, and the pointer pointed to a purple icon. At this time, Tien received a reward from the system. Congratulations to the host for receiving the extra reward and the mind-reading experience card. Using the mind-reading experience card, you can listen to other people's thoughts, and the validity period is 1 day. Unexpectedly, after watching the video twice, the reward for the turntable was so low. Tien was a little disappointed. He thought the system would reward him with purple gems, so that he could exchange some money at the pawn shop and improve his life. Just when Tien was planning how to spend the 300,000 he had just received, his cell phone rang. It was you who wanted to break up, so let's break up. This unique ringtone was downloaded by Tien specifically for a specific person. The so-called specific person was Tien's ex-girlfriend. Tien and his ex-girlfriend met at a class reunion. Since graduating from college, he rarely attended class reunions, but his bad friend Wang Qiang insisted on attending that class reunion. It was also by chance that Tien met the woman. The woman who made him unforgettable, Xiaozhu. When they chatted, they felt that they had the same interests. So they added each other's contact information. It didn't take long for them to confirm their relationship. At the beginning, they were just like normal lovers, often going out to play, eating together, playing and fighting, and being very happy. It's just that Xiaozhu is a girl who likes to play very much, so she often goes to places that Tien doesn't like very much. But he has seen in a short video that if you love a woman, you must give her freedom. Too much control will only make her leave you. So he did not interfere too much with Xiaozhu's hobbies. It's just that Xiaozhu's expenses are getting bigger and bigger, and she often borrows money from Tien. Tien just graduated and doesn't have much savings. But he still transferred his savings to Xiaozhu without hesitation for the sake of love. Later, Xiaozhu had more reasons to borrow money. For example, parents are sick, for example, friends borrow money. She borrowed money from Tien again and again, but never paid it back. Later, because Tien really couldn't afford the money, Xiaozhu never contacted him again, as if she had never appeared. Tien was hesitating whether to answer the call, but he suddenly remembered that he had obtained a mind-reading experience card, and he wanted to see if Xiaozhu had ever loved him. So he immediately activated the mind-reading experience card. He gained the ability to read other people's minds within 1 day, even if it was through the phone or video call, it could still be effective. Tien answered the phone with trepidation, and immediately there came Xiaozhu's passionate and tender voice. Tien, long time no see, how have you been recently? When Xiaozhu's voice sounded, the system automatically displayed a screen in front of Tien. Some text appeared on it in real time, and the content of the text was what Xiaozhu was thinking at the moment. Wow, I heard that this guy made a fortune recently. I have to curry favor with him. I recently lent money to my boyfriend to play around, today I want to get some money back from this rich guy. Seeing the dirty thoughts in the other person's heart, Tian wanted to curse, but after all, the other person had just started talking and had not yet borrowed money from him, so Tian did not say anything final, but followed Xiaozhu's words. Xiaozhu, I'm fine. How are you doing? Xiaozhu didn't answer Tian's question at all, but went straight to the point and invited him to meet. Honey, I miss you, can we meet? The following words appeared on the screen in front of Tian. Oh, why is this person still like that old lady, nagging? I have made an appointment with a few friends. When the time comes, I will invite this unlucky guy to hang out, and then trick him into going to the hotel. When the time comes, my friends will block him there and get more gold coins from him. After reading the content, Tian almost threw the phone in his hand, but reason made him calm down. Okay, I miss you too, but I'm a little busy now, can we make an appointment tomorrow? At this moment, Tian already had a plan in his mind. Chapter 24. Tian is not the kind of reckless man who gets angry and does things just because he is not convinced. He knows that with his own strength, he has no way to compete with the group of people brought by his ex-girlfriend. It would be of little use to rashly go to the appointment or seek help from the police. After all, no police officer would believe him. If he was set up by a honey trap, they would only think that it was just a quarrel between two young lovers. Then his application to the police would fall on deaf ears. At that time, not only would he not be able to seek their help, but he would be ridiculed by public opinion. Then the only way left is to escape. But blind escape is not Tian's style. He can escape for a while, but not for a lifetime. So Tian decided to continue watching short videos, get system rewards, and then use the rewards to find a way to settle accounts with his ex-girlfriend. So Tian started the next video directly. One Piece Top 10 Tear-Jerking Scenes 3, Nami's Tears. After Creek attacked Hawkeye and was deflected by Hawkeye. Hawkeye's figure disappeared in the vast ocean. Next up is the Straw Hats vs. Creek and his gang. Because Zoro was seriously injured. So Zoro lay on the boat, followed by his two younger brothers and Usopp to chase Nami, who had driven the Go-Mary away. The remaining ones are Sanji and Luffy, who are confident that they can deal with the Creek pirates. Just as the two sides were about to go to war, the chefs of the sea-based restaurants also began to try their hand. It's a pity that these chefs are no match for the Creek pirates. All were defeated. Just as these pirates began to shamelessly mock the chef of the sea restaurant, they were soon taught a lesson by Sanji. All the soldiers were killed, and the Creek pirates began to play with their main forces. Captain Creek, Iron-Armed Palu, and the Demon Akin. At the beginning, Sanji and Luffy both encountered strong resistance from each other. But under Luffy's desperate attack, he finally knocked the armored Creek to the ground. During the battle, Luffy found out. Why did Sanji have to stay in the restaurant on the sea? It turned out that he wanted to repay the barefoot Zwofu for saving his life. When he was young, Sanji worked as an apprentice chef in the ship's restaurant. Soon they were attacked by the captain of the chef pirates, Barefoot Takufu. The environmental conditions at that time were really terrible. So the ships of both sides were broken into pieces by the waves. The only survivors were the young Sanji and the weak Barefoot Takufu. They were trapped on a huge rock. It's bare, nothing on it. The only thing that could sustain their lives were two packages pushed onto the rocks by the waves. One big, one small. The rain from the sky formed puddles on the rocks, saving the two from dying of thirst. Barefoot Takufu left the big package behind and handed the small package to young Sanji. He asked the two to sit on either side of the island. Originally, they only had 5 days' worth of food left. Sanji survived for dozens of days with the small bag of food he got. Because there is really no other food. Sanji thought that there must be some leftovers from a food package as big as Barefoot Takufu's. So he took a knife and planned to kill the Barefoot Zwofu and steal his food. But the reality is so cruel. The huge pockets of Barefoot Rolf were filled with gold, silver, treasures and various jewels. There is no food at all. The only thing that allowed Barefoot Zwofu to survive these days was his leg. The Barefoot Zwofu, who was once the best in the world, cut off one of his legs with a rock on an isolated island in order to survive. And he survived until now by eating raw meat from his own legs. In order to keep young Sanji alive, he gave all the food to him. In fact, the purpose of Barefoot Takufu helping Sanji is very simple, that is, they have the same dream. They all want to go to the blue sea where all the fish from the 4 major seas gather. It's a chef's paradise. Then the 2 of them lay flat on the isolated island, waiting for the fate's decision. It was not until the 85th day that they were rescued by a passing cruise ship on the isolated island. Since then, Sanji has been assisting Barefoot Takufu wholeheartedly. They opened this restaurant on the sea. Sanji became the sous chef. They prepare delicious dishes to entertain guests from the sea. So no matter how Luffy recruits him, he will not be moved. In the end, Ajin found his conscience and carried the unconscious Captain Creek away, ending the conflict. Barefoot Takufu knew that Sanji didn't belong in the restaurant at sea. He should belong to the wider sea. To find the dream in his heart. So I want Sanji to join Luffy's pirate group. But Luffy refused directly. Because he needs Sanji to admit that he wants to join his pirate group, then he will accept him. In order to allow Sanji to leave with Luffy in peace. All the chefs from the restaurants at sea jointly staged a play. Pretend to say that Sanji's soup tastes terrible. And the barefoot chef, Takufu, hit Sanji with his hands. As a chef, using your hands is the greatest respect for Sanji. After all, a chef's hands are especially precious. After Sanji, who was hiding behind the door, learned all the inside stories. Finally agreed to join Luffy's pirate. Serving as the ship's cook. The 2 were about to set off. Suddenly, I saw Yusa, one of Zoro's 2 younger brothers, suddenly return to the sea restaurant. From him, I learned that Nami drove the Gomeri into a terrible sea. Aaron's paradise. In order to recapture the lost Gomeri and to get Nami to rejoin his pirate group, Luffy and others resolutely embarked on the journey. Before Sanji left, Barefoot Takufu stood on the 2nd floor deck and said, "Sanji, please don't catch a cold." The pent-up emotions over the years made Sanji burst into tears and he knelt down to pay homage to Takufu. "Boss Zwofu, I have caused you a lot of trouble for a long time. I will never forget your great kindness." Sanji's shocking kneeling. It directly caused the chef's tear glands to collapse. Everyone started to cry. But they didn't try to keep Sanji. Because they know Sanji has his own battlefield to fight. After leaving the restaurant on the sea, everyone went to their destination. This is the territory governed by the fishman Arlong, who is as famous as the 7 warlords of the sea. Chapter 25. Naruto Plain. Originally, Orochimaru didn't care about the screen in the sky. Being proficient in various forbidden techniques, he could find at least 5 ways to perform the same ninjutsu as the big screen in the sky, but the content played in it made Orochimaru feel very strange, because if it was for some strategic purpose, it must be playing things related to this world, or even directly playing his own strategic declaration. Either to rule the world or to brainwash everyone. But the content played in this big screen is very intriguing, because the content in it neither promotes a certain idea nor conveys a certain fixed ideology. What he showed seemed to be the daily life in another world, those contents that make people feel passionate, make people feel tears, and make people feel happy, just like the leisure books in the hands of workers after a day of hard work. The previous opponent named Kakashi often read The Intimate Paradise. There is no need to know why the book is so attractive, just know that this book can be a way to make yourself feel relaxed and happy. That's even stranger. The screen only plays content that makes others feel comfortable. However, such a large amount of chakra is used to maintain the screen in the sky, and even some people indoors can see the content on the screen through their ceiling. This practice of consuming huge costs but achieving little effect makes Orochimaru feel very strange. And the structure of the pirate world reflected by Orochimaru from the screen. It seems to correspond to their world one by one. The celestial dragons who control all the highest powers in the world are exactly the same as the daimyo in the Naruto world. The navy that protects the daimyo from external harm. It is also similar to the ninja village that protects the 5 major countries, as if the author of this film is using some obscure statement to allude to the current social phenomenon. Is it possible to start another ideological war? No clue at all. Orochimaru shook his head and continued to conduct his biological experiments. Death Plane. The 7 warlords of the sea as they are called. It seems that they are a similar organization to Argoti I-13, which is a violent organization that allows those in power to enjoy their power safely. Aizen, who was imprisoned in the bottomless prison, slowly raised his head, and the seals on his eyes, left hand, and mouth had been released. Aizen saw Kurako Shunsui slowly approaching him and said teasingly. Normally, Aizen's 5 senses should be sealed, but due to the invasion of the Invisible Empire led by Yhwach, Aizen had a bargaining chip. After all, when Yuhabak invaded the Siridii for the first time, it was to find Aizen, and Yuhabak designated Aizen as a special combat force. He hoped to reduce a potential opponent, and it would be best if he could turn him against the court. Aizen used his ability to disrupt Yuhabaka's concept of time. That is why the Godi I-13 was not completely wiped out in that attack. At this moment, Captain Kurako came to the bottomless prison, and his main purpose was to exchange with Aizen about the screen in the sky. According to my understanding, all the existing known ghost arts or technologies cannot achieve the effect of the screen in the sky. If I can use the power of the Hogyaku, I may be able to make something similar, but there is no way for those who are inside to see the contents through the ceiling. And I think the contents are very interesting and will not pose any threat to the modern Siridii. Aizen's words are very pertinent, but Captain Kurako doesn't want him to talk nonsense, so he makes a deal directly. We will release some of your power and let you go outside to get some fresh air. You help us defeat the Invisible Empire. It was very difficult for Kurako to make this decision. After all, what he had to face was actually more terrifying than the Invisible Empire. Aizen, who once ruled the Hueco Mundo by himself and led the Godi I-13 into a group battle. In order to defeat the wolves, he released the tiger. Kurako was considering whether his approach was correct. I think even if I join, I can't stop the expansion of the Invisible Empire, and the old captain has died in the battle. The power to restrict them is getting weaker and weaker, but I have a good suggestion for you. Aizen showed an interesting smile. What exactly is the suggestion? Jingle didn't have time to talk to him anymore. You can study the content on the screen above your head carefully, whether it is combat skills or the use of tactics. There are some good points in it, which may provide you with some ideas for defeating the Invisible Empire. When Aizen said this, he subconsciously glanced at the screen. Detective Dimension. At this moment, Jin and Vodka were driving on the viaduct in Kyoto. Vodka glanced at the roof of the car from time to time. Usually their work was very tense and exciting, so he was under a lot of pressure. He found that looking at the content on the screen when he had nothing to do was very helpful in relaxing his nerves and relieving stress. But it was too dangerous to look at the screen while driving, and soon he was warned by Jin. You don't think your life is too long, do you? Under the cover of grey hair, a pair of hawk-like eyes stared at Vodka who was driving. This death-like look made Vodka shudder, and he immediately looked at the front of the car with full concentration. Brother, I'm sorry. I just want to see if the image on the screen has changed. He has been playing subtitles since just now. Vodka had to speak to this cold-blooded brother in a respectful tone. After all, Vodka really believed that if the brother felt that he did not follow his orders, he would shoot him without hesitation. Jin stopped talking and leaned back on the seat. The lights on both sides of the Kyoto road at night were bright and colorful, but they were not as exciting as the content played on the screen above his head. That guy called Arlong looks quite interesting. Jin said to himself in a voice that was barely audible to Vodka. Jojo Dimension. Kira Yoshikage just stood up from his workstation and stretched his somewhat stiff body. Originally, he thought that his peaceful life would go on like this, but the uncontrollable desire to kill made his nails grow longer and longer. This feeling is like a maggot attached to the bone. It makes it difficult for Kira Yoshikage to control the violent spirit in his heart. But he recently found a way to replace killing and suppress the mania in his heart, that is, to look up at the screen that is constantly playing bloody and violent content. Maybe some people see friendship and passion through that screen, but Kira Yoshikage admires Creek's big gun that can cause violent explosions when fighting Luffy. In Kira Yoshikage's eyes, this ability complements his Killer Queen, which also makes him sure that people with similar abilities as himself exist in any world. If possible. I really want to leave Morio Town and live in his world for a while. I want to live an ordinary life, which seems to be able to suppress my inner irritability and let me realize my dreams. The characters of Bankai held various thoughts in their minds and ushered in the tear-jerking scenes of the Third Pirate World. Chapter 26. A pirate flag with a shark painted on it is flying on the southwestern land. The irony is that right next to this pirate flag was a navy ship. At this moment, the captain of the 16th branch of the navy and the leader of the pirate group, Arlong, are brothers. There were piles of banknotes in front of them. These banknotes were the cash that Arlong obtained after looting the surrounding towns and villages. Part of this money is to be handed over to the sailors of the 16th Navy branch who are supposed to defend this place. More precisely, it was handed over to the nasty rat-looking Navy captain himself. It turns out that the reason why Arlong was able to build his own paradise here was because, relying heavily on its own dirty dealings with the local navy, he paid a large sum of money in exchange for the support of the naval captain. Let him turn a blind eye to the pirate group Arlong. At this moment, a woman was walking towards the entrance of Arlong Park. The woman that Luffy both hates and loves. Nami the thief cat. It turns out that she has been a cadre of Arlong gang from the beginning to the end. He even has a tattoo on his left arm that matches the logo on the flag of the Arlong pirates. The seriously injured Zoro, the cowardly Usopp and Zoro's younger brother have also arrived at the entrance of the Arlong Park. What awaits them is opportunity or risk. Their purpose at this moment is very simple. One is to retrieve the Advance Mary that was taken away by Nami. The second is to persuade Nami to rejoin the Straw Hat Pirates at Luffy's request. Become their navigator. Because if they want to enter the Grand Line without a reliable navigator, it is simply nonsense. Unfortunately, they failed. As soon as the boat arrived at the port, it was discovered by the patrolling fishermen there. Usopp and Zoro's younger brother are both cowards. Immediately abandon Zoro and escape by diving. As expected, Zoro was captured by Arlong gang. Usopp ran for a long time and finally swam to shore. As soon as I got ashore, I saw the town that had just been ravaged by Arlong gang. Usopp, who was constantly on the run, met Nojigo, the owner of Belle Mare Orange Orchard. And she is Nami's sister. Holy Lord Plain. Sheriff Blake is currently visiting Daddy's antique shop, in order to receive the rat charm that was secretly stolen by Xiaohu from District 13. He was not in a hurry to go back, but was very leisurely drinking afternoon tea with Chen Long. Daddy and True were busy for a few days and finally gave up. Although their magic could temporarily make the screen shake, they soon suffered a strong counterattack from the magic. Not only did most of the decorations in Daddy's antique shop disappear, but True himself was also struck by lightning, and was now lying on a hammock in the inner room to rest. Thanks to True's different physique from ordinary people, if an ordinary person suffered such a strong backlash from magic, he would probably die on the spot. So the huge screen in the sky is not magic. Sheriff Black concluded the screen in the sky after drinking a cup of tea. The old man with gauze wrapped on his head slowly walked out from the inner room, shaking his head and said to Sheriff Black. Wrong, Daddy's vision is always accurate. The screen in the sky must be magic, and we must use magic to defeat magic. Sheriff Black grinned and couldn't say anything more to this stubborn old man. After all, no matter how much they discussed, there would be no result. Instead, he turned his eyes to Chen Long who was teaching Xiaohu a lesson. Chen Long, do you have any missions recently? Come back to the bureau with me, I need your help with something. Although Sheriff Braided said it lightly, his expression became very serious. It seemed that the matter was closely related to Chen Long himself. So Chen Long took Sheriff Black to a secluded corner and asked quietly. What happened to Sheriff Black? Sheriff Black looked a little depressed. You should know Dao Long, he escaped from prison. Chen Long originally had a mouthful of tea in his mouth, but when he heard that Dao Long had escaped from prison, he immediately sprayed out the tea in his mouth. What did you say? Sheriff Black, that powerful black wizard actually escaped from prison. Shouldn't he be trapped in a special prison for people with magic? Sheriff Black nodded and pointed to the screen above his head. Chen Long, you are right, but Dao Long may have gained some inspiration from the screen above his head, and actually developed a new set of special magic that can bypass all our defenses and successfully escape from the bottom of the prison. Ah, bad luck, bad luck, bad luck. Chen Long had planned to take a good rest for a while, but he didn't expect that his old rival would come out again. Xiaohu, who was standing nearby, had overheard their conversation and was extremely excited. Great, we can finally continue our adventure. Dragon Ball Plane. Cell, who has become a complete person, is preparing for his own Cell games, to compete with the strongest people on Earth, to test who is stronger. But he soon postponed this plan, because he felt that the world on the screen seemed more interesting, with a wider world, and the people in it seemed to be more powerful. But in fact, S strength has far surpassed that of everyone in the pirate world on the screen. After all, even if no other character in the pirate world can do it, he can destroy a planet with a single attack. Even the most arrogant pirates are just younger brothers in front of Kakarot, Vegeta, Cell and others. It's just that their experiences are more interesting. Although their strength is limited, the fighting style they show is very interesting. Cell crossed his legs and floated in the air, pinching his chin with his hand, looking at the screen thoughtfully. He felt that some people on the screen should be able to increase their strength, and they would not be as weak as they showed before. When the people inside become truly powerful, I will definitely find a way to get to their world. After all, conquest is in my genes. Cell clenched his fist with one hand and a yellow light wave appeared, which exploded violently directly at the location of the screen. Even the most solid fortress on Earth could be shattered by Cell's light wave of his hand, but the screen was like a magic needle that stabilized the sea. No matter how Cell attacked, he could not shake the screen in the slightest. Things are getting more interesting. The alien dimension. Wang Yat, who was originally careless, looked at the screen above his head and immediately entered his inner vision to calculate the origin of the screen, but he soon gave up. The reason was simple. The state of the mystery he wanted to solve in the inner vision was countless times greater than Feng Baobao's secret. The process of solving the mystery was like he was approaching the expanding sun. Just a glance would instantly turn this secret into ashes. Oh, this is really bad. It seems that even Feng Kaokuman can't solve this secret. Interesting, really interesting. Chapter 27. Usopp is in Koko village, talking to Nami's sister Nakako. During the conversation, Usopp learned that Nami and her sister are not actually sisters. They are all war orphans adopted by retired Navy officer Bellmeyer. At this time, Bellmeyer, who raised them, had passed away. From the tone of Nami's sister, we know that their adoptive mother's death was not simple. Do not know why. Nami immediately joined Arlong group and became their navigator. This made Usopp very angry. They thought Nami had been deceiving them from the beginning. In the case of accidental collision, he discovered the location of the Go Mary. It is parked at the port next to the village of Kakia. As Zoro was seriously injured, no way to dive. So he was caught by the fishmen under Arlong's command and brought to Arlong. And he is surrounded by densely packed fishmen. Zoro learned from him that Arlong actually hated humans. He believed that the Murlocs were a noble race. All humans should be slaves of the Murlocs. And Nami also appeared beside Arlong at this moment. This surprised Zoro. He didn't expect that the girl who looked pure and lovely. Such a superb disguise. From Arlong, we learn that Nami is a completely cold-blooded witch-like woman who can even forget the death of her parents for the sake of money. But Zoro didn't believe that Nami was such a hard-hearted person. So in front of all the fishmen, he jumped into the pool in the center of the Arlong paradise. At this moment, Zoro, who was tied up and injured all over, was likely to drown in the pool on the spot. Nami didn't hesitate at all. He took off his shoes and dived into the water to rescue Zoro, who was on the verge of death. This completely let Zoro know Nami's true face. She is a kind girl who can't bear to see others get hurt. Hunter Plane. At this moment, Kurapika applied for the position of bodyguard. Entered the huge whale ship heading to the Dark Continent. At this moment, Kurapika was responsible for protecting the 14th prince, Wabul Huigwaro. As the king of the Kaken Empire and the youngest son, he was the weakest in the entire Battle of Heirs, so his mother was willing to spend a lot of money to find strong hunters as their bodyguards to protect the safety of mother and son during the entire voyage and even in the entire Battle of Heirs. On the one hand, he made detailed arrangements and prepared everything inside and outside. At this moment, he suddenly looked up and saw the screen on the ceiling. He tried different rooms first. He found that no matter which room he went to, the screen would appear on the ceiling, and the content played in it could be connected. Kurapika simply came to the deck and found that the entire huge screen was suspended in the blue sky. No matter what kind of scene appears in the sky, it will not affect the playback of the image on the screen. This powerful ability of mind is something Kurapika has never seen before, but from the content played on the screen, he found that it is showing a strong parent-child relationship. Although there is no blood relationship, the Nami sisters still trust each other. Although Nami looks particularly greedy for money and joined the group of Arlong against her will to become a navigator. But Kurapika can see that all this is not from Nami's original intention, just like he wanted to avenge his people at the beginning, and even had a feud with the Phantom Troop. A series of mind abilities that he has mastered with determination. They are all closely related to the Phantom Troop. The organization that once took the lives of the people for the Red Eyes must be destroyed by him personally. Through the simple dialogue in the picture, Kurapika already knows that it is very likely that the fishman named Arlong killed Nami's adoptive mother, and Nami is lurking beside Arlong and is likely to want to avenge her mother. What a naive little girl! No matter what plan she makes, it is useless in front of the powerful force she possesses. Before Kurapika gained his current nin ability, he always thought that he could fight the phantom troop with his own strength, but he found that there was still a big gap between his strength and those of the phantom troop members. This forced him to continue to practice and possess the chains that restrain the abilities of the phantom troop members. No matter what, I wish you success, little girl. Kurapika seemed to be talking to Nami, but also seemed to be talking to himself. In the forest, there is a powerful and mysterious ninja named Sonia. He lives away from the crowd to hone his strong will, improve his strength, and fight the bald devil, Saitama teacher, again. The only comfort he has in the forest is the huge screen that suddenly appears in the air. What Nami does in it makes Sonia unable to understand. What a strange woman. If she wants revenge, she should hone her own strength and then kill her enemy with her strength. That would be satisfying. What kind of conspiracy and intrigue, and working beside her enemy, is simply a great shame. Sonia remembered the wonderful duel between himself and the bald devil. In fact, he was abused unilaterally. There was even one time when he was hit by a bullet by the bald devil. This hatred made him feel a sharp pain in his lower abdomen every time he thought of it. To take revenge, you still need to rely on your own strong strength, Sonia said, and her figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. When she reappeared, she was already hundreds of meters away from the original position. In this distance, countless trees were cut off in an instant, and fell one by one, leaving a large open space in an instant, with only tree stumps left on the ground. Sonia looked at her slightly red hands. It seems that my speed is still not fast enough, so I can't beat him at all. Then, in order to continue to train his speed, he ran back and forth within a few hundred meters, raising a lot of dust, causing the wild animals and birds that originally lived in the jungle to migrate. Spy plane. At this time, there were constant disturbances in the Eden campus. Eden College, which originally only accepted aristocratic students and outstanding children of civilians, became very lively due to the joining of Anya. In a subtle way, Anya became a core member among the freshmen, which made Henry Henderson feel very headache. But he admired the Folger family, Anya, Joel, and Lloyd, very much. The various behaviors they showed during the interview were so elegant. Yesterday, when he was sorting out the lesson plans in the office, the image on the ceiling showed the scene of Nami saving Zoro. In the past, people praised heroes for saving beauties, but this time it was beauties saving heroes. They are all young people who say one thing and mean another. Although they look embarrassed, their behavior is really elegant. Henry Henderson smiled leisurely. Chapter 28. Learned from my own men. Along with Zoro came a long-nosed guy named Usopp, hiding in the village of Kokozia. At this time, Arlong was thinking about going to them to continue to plunder more money. In the village, the scarred policeman Kensuke is negotiating with Arlong. There is a spinning windmill on his head. It looks quite funny. But his expression was so serious that it seemed to condense water. The reason why Arlong can continuously provide dirty money to the Admiral is that this is the result of his continuous exploitation of the villagers and nearby townspeople. In order to collect enough money to build the East Sea, the weakest of the four seas. Arlong Empire, led by fishmen and enslaving humans. Arlong has always needed money. Any village that failed to pay tribute on time would be ruthlessly destroyed by him. The residents of Kokozia refused to continue paying tribute. So the Kokozia policeman Kensuke, who came forward to negotiate with Arlong, was ruthlessly beaten by Arlong. Although Arlong is rude and unreasonable. But Kensuke advised the residents not to resist. As long as they don't resist, the whole village can still be saved. Otherwise, you will be retaliated by all the fishmen. Just as Arlong wanted to kill one to warn the rest. Let the residents of Kokozia pay the money honestly. He wanted to lift the policeman who dared to resist high up and smash him to pieces. Use his death as a warning to the cowardly residents. It's a pity that Usopp, who had been secretly watching from the side, couldn't help himself. Immediately launch the gunpowder star with the slingshot. The gunpowder star exploded violently on Arlong. This action completely angered Arlong. He even lifted up the house that Usopp was standing on and slammed it to the ground. The powerful strength displayed by the fishmen is something that humans can never achieve. Usopp saw that the situation was not good, so he ran away immediately, and running away was what he was good at. While Arlong was speaking nonsense in the village of Kokozia, Nami sneaked into the base secretly. He released Zoro from prison. And he returned the confiscated sword to Zoro. This also laid the groundwork for Zoro's rampage in Arlong Park. The residents of Kokozia really couldn't afford to offer more. When Usopp took all the fishmen away from the Kokozia village, Nami just came back. But all the residents treated him coldly. They treated Nami as air and walked away. Only his sister and the assistant policeman greeted her. But Nami doesn't care. She came to the beach with a bouquet of flowers. There stood a simple tomb. That's her adoptive mother's tombstone. At this point in the video, the audience finally understands why Nami has always wanted to find the treasure. I've always wanted to save money. Because he wanted to save up 100 million berries. Just buy the village of Kokozia. Free it from the bloody rule of Arlong. At this moment, she only has 7 million berries left. Little did she know that the cruel truth was waiting for this innocent girl. Naruto Plain. Sakura was washing clothes and preparing dinner. She saw the screen in the sky playing about Nami's life experience. She couldn't help but shed tears. And she was not crying for herself, but Naruto, who had a similar experience as Nami. She knew that if she was sorry for someone in her life, it was Naruto. At the beginning, she took advantage of Naruto's feelings for her and let Naruto risk his life to get Sasuke back. At that moment, she almost ruined Naruto's best time, but Sakura spurred Naruto to become stronger and stronger, and finally sat on the position of Hokage. At this moment, Nami's situation was almost the same as that of the young Naruto. They were all ostracized by the people in the village, and both of them were carrying a huge ideological burden. But they still moved forward step by step. Naruto worked hard to make himself stronger and become a Hokage respected by everyone. Nami worked hard to save money to buy the village and get out of the clutches of Arlong. Both of them have unswerving goals, but what they have to go through is hardship. What awaits them ahead is terrible thorns. Looking at Nami in the picture, smiling like an angel in front of her mother's grave, Sakura was heartbroken. If she had been able to take care of Naruto's feelings, if she had been able to let go of her prejudice against him and give him more help, it is very likely that Naruto would not have to suffer so much. She looked back at her daughter Sarada, who was cleaning up the dishes at the dining table, and thought of her husband Sasuke, who was constantly running around for the entire village, and she felt a little comforted. Maybe all this is the best arrangement. At this time, Sarada seemed to notice something was wrong with her mother, opened the door, and came to the yard. "What's wrong with Mom?" Xiaoying wiped away the tears from her eyes and smiled. "Nothing, let's go inside and eat together." Death God Plain. At this moment, Sayori was sitting in the classroom at school. The teacher was standing on the podium and talking about history. Today's class was so boring. Although she was sitting in the classroom, Sayori's heart had already flown away. Kurosaki-san didn't come to class today, and Uri-san seems to have asked for leave. What happened to them? As an ordinary person with a Fullbring-like ability, although she has the ability of the 6 flowers, she is still a student and an ordinary person after all. There is no way to understand the Reaper and the Quincy. There are countless grievances for thousands of years. She subconsciously touched the 6 flowers on her head, which was the source of her ability. Then she rubbed her face hard with her hands. "Sayori, you can't continue to be depressed. After all, it's useless to just worry about Kurosaki-san. If you really want to help Kurosaki-san, you have to improve your abilities." Sayori was originally a very weak girl, but after the battle in Hueco Mundo, she gradually became strong, and the content played on the screen on the ceiling of her classroom also encouraged Sayori to move forward, because the girl named Nami was the same as herself, and even her situation was far worse than hers, and her family conditions were even worse. But the girl named Nami did not give up on herself, but used her own strength to continuously achieve the purpose of life. With her own strength, she was able to save more than 90 million shells. How much hardship and fatigue can be achieved in this level? And Sayori can see that Nami's dream is rooted in her. Her dream was not to save money. It was to draw an accurate world map, which was closely related to her strong surveying and mapping abilities. Sayori had the ability to refuse, so she must help Kuroki at the critical moment. She wanted Kurosaki to stop working so hard and stop getting hurt, so that everyone could have a sweet and happy ending. Sayori lay on the table, looking out the window. Just when she was absent-minded and was about to lie there until the end of the class, someone patted her shoulder, and she turned her head to look. She saw the tall Chad standing behind him. "Let's go, Ichigo, he needs us." Sayori agreed immediately. In the surprised eyes of the teacher, the two of them jumped out of the window. Chapter 29. The Straw Hat Pirates are divided into 3 groups. Gradually approaching the Arlong Paradise. Arlong that once ruled one side. His position is now in jeopardy. First of all, the interior of the Arlong Park has been destroyed by Zoro. All the remaining fishmen were killed by Zoro. Usopp attracted a large number of fishmen to Caucosia Island. But unfortunately, he was eventually caught by Arlong. Luffy and Sanji drove from the sea restaurant all the way to the Arlong Park. On the way, I encountered a small sea king creature that looked like a cow. Its body is like a small mountain. But its strength is really too poor. Being taught a lesson by Luffy and Sanji. Eventually he became a boat puller. The group headed towards Arlong Park. In order to find his companions. After all the fishmen were defeated. After leaving the Arlong Park, Zoro got lost. At this time, the enthusiastic octopus fishman Zioba saw. Xiaoba is a fishman who is very close to humans. He believes that there is no essential difference between humans and merfolk. It was just that the elder brother he was pursuing particularly despised humans. So he had to put on a fierce look. But he was still kind-hearted. He enthusiastically brought Zoro to the town of Caucosia. He and his companions missed the perfect opportunity to reunite. Arlong, who was originally collecting offerings in the small town of Caucosia, now returned to the base with the prisoner Usopp. But found the base in a mess. His own men were either killed or injured. No one can stand up. Arlong was furious and vowed to take revenge on the Straw Hat Pirates. Usopp was caught. He himself was frightened to death. But he had no doubt about Nami's true feelings. He believed from the beginning to the end that Nami was kind, simple and enthusiastic. Nami saved Usopp's life. Pull out a dagger, pretend to stab Usopp to death, and throw him into the sea. In fact, ketchup is used to disguise blood. Tried Arlong and his group. Nami is such a kind person. I don't want to hurt my companions, but I can't break up with Arlong. Because she still wants to redeem her hometown with 100 million berries. She put on a false mask. Disguising one's true nature, living next to the devil. Dragon Ball Plain. At this moment, Cell seemed to be attracted by the plot on the screen. He temporarily suspended the idea of invading the Earth and paused the killing game. This left precious time for Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, and others who were training in the spiritual time chamber. In fact, Cell reflected on the meaning of his existence more than once. The androids created by the Doctor of the Red Ribbon Army had no past, no family, and no companions. His only goal was to execute the program set by the Doctor, kill Son Goku, and then rule the world. For him, there was no fun in itself. The Scion genes contained in his body forced him to constantly look for strong people and challenge them again and again. Although he had absorbed No. 17 and No. 18 at this time, he felt an unprecedented emptiness in his heart. Looking at the screen in front of him, Nami was constantly fighting for her dream. Cell was silent. Do I also have a goal that I must pursue like her? Do I have a dream that I must realize like him? So what if I rule the world? So what if I kill the Scions who protect the earth? All that is left for me is endless emptiness. Am I going to guard this desolate ruin? At the beginning, Cell took a time machine and went back to the past. The purpose was actually very simple, which was to become a perfect body so that he would not be killed by Trunks inexplicably. Or it was very likely that being killed was his destiny. Looking at the arena that had been set up to imitate the World No. 1 martial arts tournament. Cell patted his head and stood up. I feel like my brain is not enough to think about so much. It's really annoying. JoJo Dimension. Because a huge screen appeared in the sky of their world, slowing down the pace of Kira Yoshikage killing innocent women, the protagonists did not notice the existence of Kira Yoshikage, the murderer, for a short time. After they successfully eliminated the hot peppers, they thought that their enemies had disappeared, and Mr. Jotaro was going to leave Morio Town to engage in his own marine research. But at this moment, a strange photo with insect arrows appeared in front of the protagonists. The owner of the photo was the father of Kira Yoshikage, who had already passed away. In order to let his son avoid the pursuit of the protagonists, he hoped to use insect arrows to further enhance his son's standability. Jotaro, who originally wanted to board the ship to leave, also delayed his plan to leave Morio Town. We must find the insect arrow. After all, the mysterious power of ancient Egypt may bring disaster to the peaceful town. Jotaro, who is always calm and composed, is also worried at this moment. However, Kira Yoshikage did not accept the insect arrow handed over by his father. Instead, he put it in a box and sealed it up. Stinky old man, I am very satisfied with my current life. I just want to live an ordinary life, go to work on time every day, get off work on time, and be able to watch the scenery of another world in the yard. I am actually very satisfied with this kind of life. Kira Yoshikage slowly put down the tissue that had just wiped his tears. He was not moved to tears by the strong girl Nami. Instead, he found that Nami had a pair of beautiful hands that he had always dreamed of, and he felt sad that he could not get these hands in another world. Forget it, brat, it doesn't matter what you do, you've got yourself into trouble, and I, an old man, have to clean up your mess. Kira Yoshikage's father thought he couldn't convince his son in a short time, so he turned into a photo and lay quietly in a box with a lot of money to prevent anyone from trying to steal the insect arrow from Kira Yoshikage's house. Alien Plane. At this moment, Zhang Hulan has received the message from Grandma Jinhua. They are about to go to Tongtian Valley at Section 24 to explore the secrets related to Feng Bao Bao, especially the mysterious photo placed in the secret room of Wu Zhensheng. And the old Tianxi at this time seemed to be preparing for something. Since the end of Lushan Dejiao, he entered the secret room and began to retreat. It seemed that he was struggling in his heart to determine whether to kill everyone to keep a secret. If it were under normal circumstances, the Tianxi would have gone down the mountain and wiped out Chuanxing by himself, especially to tear Gongqing, the head of Chuanxing who had obtained the secret, into pieces. However, the video that appeared in the sky was regarded by the old Tianxi as a warning from heaven, which made him more hesitant in his heart. And it was this hesitation that made him hesitate and make up his mind to act. Chapter 30. The small sea king that looks like a manatee. It pulled Luffy and the others all the way to the port of Kokoyasi village. Because I didn't brake at the right time, Luffy and the others were directly allowed to fly up on a small boat. Coincidentally, they stopped right in front of Zoro, who was constantly searching for them. In this way, the two groups will meet up in advance. The team that arrived at Arlong Paradise earlier than them. A Navy team. They were the Navy who came after the surviving villagers of the previously destroyed village called the police. This group of Navy officers were transferred from other naval branches. They belong to the 77th Brigade. Because they have no vested interests with Arlong gang, so they immediately issued an order to arrest all the criminal fishmen. At this moment, Arlong returned to the headquarters and was still thinking of bribing them with money. But earlier than their negotiations came a shell from a naval battleship. Seeing the cannonballs about to blow Arlong to pieces, Arlong opened its mouth wide and bit the flying cannonball tightly. He bit the shell into pieces with one bite. His terrifying strength made the foolish brothers around him feel at ease. It was because of this cannonball that Arlong decided to cancel the bribe to them. This time they are no longer negotiating. Instead, they launched a full-scale attack. Arlong sent out his own officers. Destroy all the navy. The residents who were standing on the coast, hoping that the navy would come to rescue them. Watching the huge warship sink to the bottom of the sea. All the navy that came to rescue them died. Everyone felt desperate. They finally accepted their fate, knowing that there was no way to escape the clutches of Arlong, the bounty hunter who sneaked into the Wolong Park headquarters earlier. It also brought bad news to Luffy and his friends. He watched Nami pierce Usopp's heart with a sharp knife. Kick it into the sea. This instantly made the Straw Hat Pirates hostile towards Nami. What makes Luffy even more incredible is that Nami appeared in front of everyone. A cold-blooded witch. She pretended that nothing mattered. The purpose is to drive them out of their hometown. Nami asks the Straw Hat Pirates not to challenge the terrifying Arlong again. Zoro immediately drew his sword, wanting to avenge Usopp. But he was stopped by the gentleman Sanji. The two sides disliked each other, but they could not agree on the dispute for a while. Luffy saw that he had no way to recruit Nami. Join your own pirate group. He lay down directly on the beach. Close your eyes and go to sleep. He did not follow Nami's advice to leave Kokozia Island. Nor did he seek revenge on Arlong. He is waiting for the day when Nami changes her mind. Death God Plane. At this moment, Kenpei Kizaraki followed the advice of Captain Kiraku and came to a secret room deep in the Siraidai. What was waiting for him there was a cruel test, and the first generation Kenpeki Anohanaretsu was waiting for him. During the conversation between the two sides, Zaraki learned a very cruel thing. That is, when he was a teenager, Zaraki had officially fought with Anohanaretsu, but at that time, Zaraki's strength was far beyond Anohanaretsu. In order to continue fighting with her and enjoy the fun of fighting, Zaraki has been suppressing his true strength. In order to fight against the Invisible Empire and against Waiwak, they must awaken the terrible monster in Kenpei Zaraki's heart here. And the method Kurako can think of is that the bell must be untied by the bell tyrant. Let Anohanaretsu and Kenpei Zaraki fight a death battle. And when both sides entered the secret room, the final result has been determined. Anohanaretsu ushered in his own death. Welcome the awakening of Kenpei Zaraki. However, facing Kenpei Zaraki, who was suppressing his power at this time, he was no match for Anohanaretsu, so they kept fighting, and at the same time Anohanaretsu would completely heal the seriously injured Kenpei Zaraki. The two sides continued to fight. This went on and on until Kenpei Zaraki was able to show his powerful strength and kill the seemingly invincible enemy in front of him. Once again, Kenpei Zaraki was defeated. There was almost no intact skin and flesh on his body. He fell powerlessly in a pool of blood. And Anohanaretsu released his Bankai. She knelt down and quietly treated Kenpei Zaraki, and above the heads of the two people just happened to appear the video of the conflict between Namek and Kusama and his group. Why? Why? Do you have to sacrifice yourself? You are so strong. If you join the battle sequence, you are likely to kill several people from the Stern Cross Legion. Zaraki Kenpei said in a very weak voice that only the two of them could hear. Instead of fighting to the death and only one person can walk out alive, it is better for both sides to join the 13 court guard squadrons and improve their overall strength after improving their strength. At this time, Anohanaretsu stopped healing his hands and fiddled with his increasingly messy hair. Some people are actually born to sacrifice, and my fate is similar to that of the little girl in the video. Although the little girl named Nami looks extremely snobbish, and she values money as her life, and even does not hesitate to hurt her companions, her ultimate goal is very simple, which is to send her cherished companions, the Straw Hat Pirates, safely out of her hometown, Kakozia village. Because he knows that the power of Arlong is not something that the current Straw Hat Pirates can fight against, instead of losing their lives here in vain, it is better to use provocation to force them away. And my life should also stay here, in order to awaken you, the power in your body that can help the god of death turn the tide of the battle. Before the battle, we have made detailed estimates and found that even if I join the battle sequence, it will not have a huge impact on the fighter. Anohanaretsu gently stroked Kenpei Zaraki's chest, and slowly moved her hand to stroke the face she had seen since she was a child. It was like a mother stroking her child, and like a wife stroking her lover. So our fate is determined at this moment. I die, and you awaken again. When he said this, Anohanaretsu's expression did not waver at all, and he was as calm as if he was describing the death of someone else. Zaraki Kenpei did not understand, but did not refute, and quietly let Anohanaretsu treat him. Holy Lord Plain. At this moment, Niu Warrior, Xiaxue, True, Chen Long, and others gathered in the combat meeting room. They are the famous Arlong team. In response to Daolong's prison break, they must take corresponding measures to prevent Daolong from continuing to endanger social stability. According to the information we received, Daolong has a very strong learning ability and is constantly learning new magic from the videos above our heads. Sheriff Black sat in the first seat and began to explain the situation on the scene to the Arlong team. Daolong is so secretive that we can't find him easily. If he wants to hide, even if we turn the whole Los Angeles upside down, we can't find his trace. Xiaxue originally held an extremely pessimistic attitude towards this incident, especially after everyone watched the screen about Nami's self-sacrifice. They were already in a very bad mood, so they spoke with a hint of gunpowder. Chen Long remained silent because he felt that what Xiaxue said was right. It was very unwise to blindly search for a black magician. At this moment, Xiaohu suddenly poked out her little head. I have a very good way to lure Daolong out. Everyone looked down and found that Xiaohu had sneaked in at some point. Chen Long covered his forehead and showed helplessness. When he wanted to pull Xiaohu out of the combat meeting room, he was stopped by Sheriff Black. I think we should listen to Xiaohu's advice. Sometimes her ideas make sense. Chapter 31. Nami originally wanted to anger her companions away, to prevent them from coming into direct conflict with Arlong, causing unnecessary casualties. But Luffy is very stubborn. No matter how Nami insulted him, he was unmoved by it. Instead, he lay motionless on the beach, as if he wanted to stay there. Luffy is waiting for Nami to agree to become his navigator and join the Straw Hat Pirates. Depressed, Nami went straight back to her sister's house. After smashing everything in the house, a man lies on the table depressed. In fact, when she was talking with Luffy and the others, she was carrying a heavy psychological burden. After all, she has already accepted Luffy and his companions from the bottom of her heart. Just because she wants to achieve her goal. She wants to save up 100 million berries to buy her hometown from Arlong. So I have been compromising. At this moment, Nami was exhausted both mentally and physically. Nami was no longer able to support herself and fell asleep on the table. Her sister could only sit opposite her and comfort her gently. Maybe in this village, or in this world, the only person who can understand his current situation is his sister. After Usopp swam ashore from the sea, he immediately found Luffy. It's just that when Sanji and Zoro were arguing, Usopp was accidentally injured. Everyone is listening to Usopp's narration. Only then did we know that when surrounded by many vicious fishmen, Nami saved Usopp's life by making him fake his death. This is how everyone untied their knots. Nami is not a bad person by nature. Nami must have some unspeakable reasons for doing this. As the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, Luffy must unconditionally trust the people he admires. Just as they were rejoicing and planning to take the next step, Nami's sister appeared beside everyone. She plans to tell the Straw Hat Pirates the whole truth. Spy plane. After studying at school all day, Anya sat at the dining table weakly. She couldn't even eat her favorite peanuts. For a child with average qualifications like her, it was too difficult to enter an aristocratic school. Her classmates were either rich or noble, and they had laid a solid foundation for their knowledge at a very young age. Anya could only rely on her mind-reading ability to support herself, but excessive use of mind-reading would consume Anya's huge mental ability. Joel saw that Anya was in great pain, and she only dared to hide in the corner and watch Anya cry silently. Although she was the Queen of Thorns who killed people like crazy, she showed enough maternal love to Anya, hoping that the little girl could live a healthy and happy life, but her cooking skills were really not good. She didn't know many words to comfort people. Sometimes she wanted to pat Anya's shoulder gently, and even smashed the table in front of her with one palm. Anya seemed to be afraid of herself. Every time she looked at herself, she would show an expression that wanted to get close to her but was a little afraid. Of course, what she didn't know was that when she and Anya were alone 30 minutes ago, she had just entered the luxury hotel and assassinated a group of traitors. Even the lining of the clothes she was wearing was stained with the blood of the traitors. That's why Anya didn't want to get close to Joel that day. But Joel had some misunderstandings, thinking that he was an incompetent mother and even his own daughter was afraid of him. This made Joel feel very sad. At this time, Lloyd walked to Anya's side. Anya raised her head with difficulty and looked at her tired father. Through mind reading, she learned that her father had just completed a task of intelligence handover and solved a case of deliberate arson on the way. Even though her parents were so tired, when they saw Anya was unhappy, they would still sit with her and comfort her, which made Anya feel very warm, just like Nami in the video. No matter how the people in the village belittled her, despised her, and alienated her, her sister would unconditionally stand by Nami's side to support her and encourage her. This is why Nami has been able to persist until now even though she entered a dangerous place alone. And Anya has her parents by her side, which is also the main reason that motivated her to stay in Eden College and not drop out. It's great to have a dad, it's great to have a mom. Finally, Anya couldn't stand the mental fatigue and fell into a deep sleep, but she still had a smile on her face when she fell asleep. Detective Dimension. Habara AI's real name is Miyano Shiho. She once had a sister who loved her. Unfortunately, in order to get out of the black organization, her sister resolutely took on the billion-dollar bank robbery. Although her sister completed the task beautifully, she was still killed by Jin. This shadow has always been hard for Habara AI to forget. Whenever she feels lonely, she will call her sister's apartment, because the answering machine in that phone has her sister's pre-recorded voice. When she feels helpless and lonely, hearing her sister's voice will bring endless comfort to Habara AI, even though she knows that such a thing is very dangerous, and the group of crazy black organizations may monitor the phone and discover her true identity. But she really can't help it. Fortunately, after the countdown to heaven case was over, Conan recorded his sister's voice very considerately and put it in Habara AI's own MP3. At this moment, she was hiding in her small laboratory. She had just woken up from a nightmare. In the dream, Jin's shrewd and cunning face was only 5 centimeters away from her. He covered his mouth tightly, and held a pistol with a silencer against his forehead. And Jin's sophistry was the body of drive. Agaza, who had been protecting and sheltering her. Even her friends Ayami, Genta, Mitsuhiko, Conan, and Xiolan, their bodies were piled up in the corner of the room, as if this was the terrible end of betraying the organization. After waking up, Habara Ai couldn't fall asleep. Habara Ai curled up her body in the corner of the laboratory. She took out the MP3 and listened to her sister's gentle voice. 2 lines of tears slid from the corners of her eyes. At this moment, she was just a little girl. No matter how strong she looked, she was fragile in nature. At this moment, the door of the laboratory suddenly knocked, and the doctor poked his head over. Ai, you're still awake. I heard some noise here, so I came to check. Are you okay? The doctor didn't wear glasses, so he couldn't see the condition of Huiwen Ai at the moment, but just asked with concern. Huiwen Ai wiped her tears and smiled sweetly. Doctor, I'm fine, you go to sleep first. Drive. Agaza scratched his head, left the laboratory, and returned to his room to sleep. At this moment, she realized that she was not alone at all. No matter how terrifying the organization was, as long as she had companions by her side, she had nothing to fear. Chapter 33. After Sanji and Usopp learned the truth about Nami, they all stood up for this weak girl. I never thought that a teenager would shoulder the heavy responsibility of saving an entire village. Even after she was still bearing the stigma. Still able to show such a brilliant smile. They were determined to help Nami escape the control of Arlong. Luffy was walking aimlessly on the street. Police Kensuk led a large number of navy. Slowly approaching Nami's house. He was not surprised why the navy appeared in Kokozia village. But I wonder why there is a paper windmill on the policeman's hat. I have to admire Luffy's unique thinking. When Colonel Mouse led a large number of navy to Nami, he wanted to confiscate all the berries that Nami had stolen, cheated, or robbed from the pirates on charges of theft. He ordered the soldiers to search for Nami and her sister. Son. Policeman Kensuk wanted to explain the situation directly to the Navy Mouse Colonel. That money is Nami's ransom for the village's freedom. It's not stolen money at all. But Colonel Mouse wouldn't listen. Instead, he thought that the whole village knew that Nami had hidden the stolen money, but they kept it to themselves. Then everyone is suspected of theft. All are accomplices. Nami directly brought up the name of the Arlong pirates. But the other party was not afraid at all. He could even accurately state the amount of stolen money. This means that the existence of the money and even the hiding place were all told to him by Arlong. This means that Arlong had no intention of letting Nami save enough money from the beginning. Give freedom to myself and the village. And this group of Navy soldiers were just lackeys hired by Arlong to steal money. At this time, Luffy came over with a smile. Hope this helps. But Nami rejected it directly. And let them leave the island quickly. She herself wanted to confront Arlong face to face. When he ran to the Arlong park panting. Go and ask Arlong why he broke the agreement. But Arlong just acted like a rogue. Said he didn't do anything at all. He just agreed with Nami to put the 100 million berries in front of him intact. He will give freedom to all the villagers of Kokozia. And every time Nami was about to save enough money, he would send out Colonel Mouse to rob all the money. The purpose is to keep Nami firmly tied to him. Keep drawing accurate maps for him. When Nami felt she was cheated and ran back to the village frantically. I found my house was smashed to pieces. The money was also dug out. The villagers were very angry about the Arlong's behavior. They intend to gather together for a great rebellion. But their actions were stopped by Nami. Nami held back her tears and said. It's okay, please wait a little longer, I will try harder. I will save up 100 million yuan, please wait for me. Naruto Plain. In the ninja school, the students were discussing the content played on the big screen. As a repeater, Yuano Uabe looked at Nami on the screen with some disdain. This woman is really lame. She was deceived and still kept her promise. In the end, Arlong is just taking advantage of Nami's talent. If it were me, I would definitely stand with the villagers and fight against Arlong's atrocities. Narashikade, who was sitting next to him, couldn't help but sneer after hearing this. Uabe, you are so simple-minded. If you can easily defeat those fishmen who are stronger than ordinary humans, then the villagers would have started to resist 8 years ago. They simply cannot endure until now. And according to the policeman named Kensuk, the whole village already knew that Nami was constantly saving money for the village to redeem their freedom. So why didn't they help Nami when they knew that she was saving money alone? Isn't it selfish to just wait for others to save you? There is nothing wrong with what Iwabe and Narashikade said, but under the long-term rule of force and mental pressure, there are very few people who can rebel. We cannot blame the villagers for having advanced ideas and being united. They were originally law-abiding residents of the island and had never seen the world. In their eyes, the evil Arlong was like a god and could not be offended. Once it was offended, only death would await them. After all, even those Navy soldiers with live ammunition were wiped out by the evil Arlong in just a few minutes. What could these helpless villagers do? Burrito and Sarada, who were sitting in the front row, were both touched in the reverse scale. Both of them have very lofty ambitions and have new age ninjas with outstanding abilities. They were deeply moved when watching the screen above their heads, and they put themselves into the role of Nami, thinking that they could not do better than Nami. Besides, although those villagers were a little selfish and cowardly, they had been trying their best to survive. Such people were still pointing fingers at others, which was what the two of them could not stand the most. So they immediately stood in front of Narashikade and Ueno Iwabe, their eyes seemed to be ready to kill in the next second. Iwabe and Shikade shut their mouths very obediently and sat in their seats honestly without saying a word. They were all classmates, and they would not fight over a video playing on the screen. Burrito and Sarada also returned to their seats, with their hands in a praying manner, hoping that Nami would have a good ending. Holy Lord Plain. At this moment, Xiao was surrounded by the members of the Arlong team because he had been talking in the combat meeting room before. She said that she had thought of a great trick to lure out Daolong, and his trick was also very simple, because she knew that what Daolong wanted most was the animal charms stored in Area 13. As long as they pretended that Area 13 was invaded, all 12 charms were stolen, then Daolong would definitely take the bait and want to steal the animal charms. At this time, they could ambush on the way, lure out Daolong and catch him in one fell swoop. This plan is very risky, but it is really worth a try. After all, it is difficult for them to find a hidden black magician, and even Dad's tracking magic has temporarily lost its effect. At this moment, they couldn't think of a better way, so they began to act according to Xiao's instructions. As Xiao expected, he was locked in his room again and was not allowed to participate in the operation. She could only sit on the chair and look up at Nami, who was as weak and helpless as herself. However, he was much happier than Nami. After all, he had parents who loved him and Uncle Long who protected him. All these were things Nami didn't have. I hope that Sister Nami can protect her and appreciate her companions. I hope that Uncle Long and his actions can go smoothly. Just when she was about to watch the video and wait until the action was over, she suddenly found that someone was knocking on the window of her room. Parker appeared at her window with a chicken and a pig. Xiao, it's time for us to act. The dark-skinned little boy gave Xiao a thumbs up. Chapter 34. Nami used her small body to block the way for many villagers. I hope to persuade them not to resist the brutal Arlong at will. But this time the villagers have made up their minds. They can no longer wait for a weak girl to save them. You should take control of your own destiny. At this moment, they were holding weapons and marching towards the Arlong Park with great vigor. Fearing that Nami would kill herself, she held a dagger and stopped them from moving forward. But at this moment their determination is as heavy and stable as Mount Tai. Will not be shaken by anything. Policeman Kensuk grabbed the blade of the dagger. Blood shed from the blade, flowing on the ground. Kensuk, who had been speaking softly to Nami, suddenly yelled at him. Get out of Nami's way. Even if we can't win, we have to let those fishmen see our human will. So the villagers stepped over Nami, heading towards Arlong Park. But Nami has seen their tragic future. Thinking of Arlong's shameless smile, it lingered in Nami's heart for a long time. She felt sick and horrified, and wanted to escape, but she couldn't escape the shackles of fate. Nami looked at the tattoo of the flag of the Arlong pirates on her left shoulder. Disgust rose in my heart. He picked up the dagger that had fallen to the ground. The tattoo on his shoulder. As if this could vent all the hatred in my heart for the evil Arlong. Arlong, 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 Arlong. Nami cursed the name that caused her so much pain. Every time she screamed, she would stab the dagger into her shoulder flesh. Scrape the tattoo until it's bloody. Just when Nami was about to stab herself. Even when I wanted to cut off the entire flesh. A strong hand grabbed Nami's wrist. Nami turned around and saw Luffy with a determined look on his face. He stood there like a mountain. It has nothing to do with you. Please leave this island as soon as possible. Nami kicked and hit Luffy, even throwing sand on him. But these actions can't shake Luffy's determination. In the end, Nami's defenses were finally broken by Luffy. That strong girl, the girl who always wears the mask of pain. She turned around and cried to Luffy. Help me. Luffy firmly placed his precious straw hat on Nami's head. Then I shouted to the sky with all my strength. Of course. Let's go to Arlong Park. Good captain. Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp answered in unison. At that moment, all the Straw Hat pirates gathered together. With the rage of revenge, rushed to the Arlong Paradise. Those two Zoro brothers had challenged the Arlong before. But he was beaten and bruised all over. But still firmly guarding the door. Prevented villagers from entering Arlong Park. The Arlong was still celebrating in the base, having just harvested 100 million berries. The next moment, their door was blasted open by Luffy. They saw the invaders. Two ignorant fishmen came to provoke. Knocked down by Luffy. Arlong's face was full of question marks. Who are you? Why are you here to cause trouble? The reason given by Luffy is very simple. Because you made my navigator cry. Nami cried. Is there any better reason than risking her life? Spy plane. At this moment, Anya has eaten and drunk enough. After waking up, she is full of energy. She punches and kicks, training her fighting skills. Joel is also very pleased. After all, his daughter has the same hobby as himself. She can play the role of her mother well and train Amiya's physical fitness from the basics, so that she will not be bullied by others in Eden College. In fact, it is natural for Anya to want to learn boxing and kicking well, because she saw from the video above her head that it was because the big sister named Nami was too weak. She had to keep compromising, and was finally deceived by the big monster with a saw-toothed nose and sharp teeth. This kind of thing must not happen to Anya. When her father and mother are in danger, Anya must stand up. That big brother called Luffy must cheer up and avenge Nami. Anya, who was already sweating from training, shouted at the screen above her head. Hunter plane. At this moment, on the giant whale cruise ship, undercurrents surged. Every prince awakened his own mind ability, and some even passed the test of the strange pot and obtained their own mind beast. The king of the twice-cooked meat wanted to elect the strongest through the mutual fighting between his children, so that the Kakin Empire would prosper forever, even at the cost of his own life. Among them, the fourth prince had the highest talent, but he was insidious and cunning. He even peeled off the skin of two beauties alive before boarding the ship. He also had the largest number of fiery red eyes. He was the first person Kurapika wanted to kill. But his awakened mind ability was very scary, that is, he could predict the future and make changes in a short time. A hunter who had mixed into his bodyguard team before was discovered by him. In the past time period, he was even killed by the killer. At this moment, he had predicted the future and killed the hunter with powerful strength. All this was tantamount to stimulating his inner desire for killing. Just like what was played in the video, the villain Arlong had always enjoyed torturing Nami. He even used lies and money to control the life of the talented Nami. He tied her tightly to his pirate group and made her work day and night to make navigation charts for him. If the fourth prince really became a part of the Kajin Empire, he would probably leave the National Alliance and become the world's #1 destabilizing factor. He would even go to any lengths to obtain diseases that could cause devastating damage to the world, or species like the Chimera ants, from the Dark Continent. What will happen next? I am so excited. The fourth prince's eyes flashed with the same bloodthirsty eyes as Arlong in the video. Monster plane. At this moment, in the bustling main street of the central street, the chief A-class hero, Sweetheart Mask, just took care of the gorilla monster who wanted to attack here. The monster with the strength of a ghost was thrown aside like a dead dog. Sweetheart Mask laughed at the two B-class heroes beside him who were defeated by the gorilla monster. Really, it is because of your existence that the Hero Association cannot raise its head in front of the weirdos. A fierce light flashed in the eyes of Sweetheart Mask. He did not think that Nami's self-sacrifice in the video was a noble character at all, but rather an extremely stupid performance. Sacrificing oneself to fulfill others is a cruel exploitation of oneself. The reason why Sweetheart Mask has not been promoted from A level to S level is to make those who are just filling in the numbers in the hero team give up their unrealistic fantasies as soon as possible. Let those self-righteous trash not privately call themselves heroes. That saw-nosed pirate is quite interesting. If he were in our world, we would probably become friends. Sweet Mask shook the blood off his hands and stepped over the bodies of the two B-class heroes he had just killed. Chapter 35. In order to clean up the fishmen who kept gathering, Luffy used a windmill attack. Put your feet firmly into the ground. Then he picked up the surrounding buildings as his weapons. Shoot away all the surrounding fishmen. Although we successfully cleared these miscellaneous soldiers in a short period of time, but because my feet are fixed on the ground, there is no way to avoid the attack from Arlong in the first place. He lifted up the rock. Throw it into the pool in front of you. A major weakness of devil fruit users is that they can't swim. Once you touch the sea water, you will feel weak. Just as their companions were trying to save Luffy, who was gradually losing consciousness. In front of each of them was a fishman cotter. Blocked their way. The one Zoro was fighting was the octopus fishman Hachi. Sanji is facing a powerful fishman who masters fishman karate. But after their fierce fighting, Xiao Bie and the fishman who knew fishman karate were defeated one after another. The police from Kakosia and Nami's sister gave Luffy first aid. He stretched his head out of the water. Although Luffy was still weak, he was not going to die immediately. Usopp was also inspired by his companions to defeat the fish-kissing fishman who could fire water cannons with his mouth. Sanji and Zoro, who were already seriously injured, were no match for Arlong. After just 2 encounters, the evil Arlong beat the 2 men to the ground, vomiting blood. Nami, wearing a straw hat, bandaged her wounds again and came to the Arlong Park. She intends to make a break with Arlong. Just as all the companions had fallen to the ground. When everyone is about to face despair, Luffy finally spewed out a lot of seawater and came back to life. Usopp and Zoro rushed back from outside, seriously injured. He held the Arlong back while Sanji dived into the water. He kicked the huge rock that was holding Luffy's legs to pieces. Let him regain his freedom. After knocking Zoro down, the Arlong untied all the gauze wrapped around him. Suddenly I found a huge wound from my left shoulder to my right rib. This is the scar that Hawkeye my hawk left on him. He had been enduring great pain to fight against these fishmen. This made Arlong feel extremely threatened. If the opponent is in his prime, he may pose a threat to himself. The Arlong wanted to kill Zoro in an instant. At this critical moment, Luffy was resurrected with full blood. Saved the dying Zoro from the Arlong. In the Death God Plane, Anohanaretsu and Zaraki Kenpeki decided the final outcome. In fact, this outcome was already determined when they entered the secret room. Zaraki Kenpeki was repeatedly seriously injured and then healed, while Anohanaretsu had exhausted all his tricks. As one gained strength while the other lost, Anohanaretsu finally fell under Zaraki Kenpeki's sword. Is it all worth it? Kenpeki Zaraki hugged the already dying Anohanaretsu tightly, watching the person he admired in the past become like this. Kenpeki Zaraki could not understand it in a short time. Anohanaretsu stretched out her hand tremblingly, wanting to touch Kenpeki Zaraki's face for the last time. In her eyes, Kenpeki Zaraki had turned into a young boy, as if she had returned to that day, when she killed 100 people and piled the corpses into a small hill, and the young Zaraki was standing on the hill of corpses and looking into her eyes. That night was a night that Anohanaretsu would never forget, the exhilarating battle. Fighting is what Anohanaretsu has been longing for since he became the captain of the Godi 13. However, because he buried a fighting genius with his own hands, there was an indelible shadow in Anohanaretsu's heart, so he completely gave up kendo and passed the name of Kenpeki to Zaraki, while he focused on taking charge of treatment-related work. In fact, this time he accepted the order of Captain Kiraku, not only because of his duty as the captain of the Godi 13, but also to make up for the regret in her heart. Through her own death, just like the little girl Nami in the video, she faced her own life. My life is complete. After saying the last sentence, Anohanaretsu died in Kenpeki Zaraki's arms. These two people had a master-disciple relationship, a lover-like relationship, and a comrade-in-arms relationship of living and dying together. More often than not, they were like rivals competing with each other and appreciating each other. This kind of emotion was very complicated. Kenpeki Zaraki's head simply could not accommodate so many emotions. In his life, there was only constant slashing, slashing, and slashing. All the enemies standing in front of him were chopped down. But this time, Kenpeki Zaraki accepted his true self, and heard a voice in his ears that he should have heard a long time ago. That's because he truly faced after his soul has truly freed himself, all he can hear is the voice that is constantly calling for his Zanpakuto. Just like Zoro in the video, he knows that he is not as strong as Hawkeye, the world's #1 swordsman, but he keeps working hard to improve his swordsmanship, and one day he will surpass that man. And Zoro cannot fall in the hands of this fishman at this moment. It's all for his captain. He believes that in the end this enemy will be beaten away by his punch. And all he can do now is to delay time. Zaraki Kenpeki burst out of the secret room holding Anohanaretsu's body, and at that moment he completed his understanding of his Zanpakuto and truly performed the Shikai. Alien Dimension. At this moment, Zhang Hulan was following the all-powerful Jin Feng Granny, and her personal bootlicker, Xiao Liuking. Together, they were heading towards the 24th Tongtian Valley, with Wang Zhenkaiu, Feng Baobao and the foreigner Baron beside him. They all followed Jin Feng Granny into the valley for their own purposes. The most unstable factor among them was the eccentric Wang Zhenkaiu. Even Zhang Hulan couldn't figure out what kind of temper this guy had. At this moment, Wang Zhenkaiu directly pulled Zhang Hulan over and pointed at the screen that appeared above their heads. Billion, what do you think of the screen above our heads? I have also analyzed it for a long time, and I feel that this is not something that can be achieved by the technology on our Earth. Come and see, no matter what angle we look at it from, we can find that the screen is facing us, and the world inside is actually running according to a certain established logic. If the devil fruit mentioned in it is regarded as our alien ability, it actually makes sense. Do you think there is a kind of existence in our world that can make ordinary people eat something or practice some secret method to directly become top aliens? After Wang Zhenkaiu finished speaking, he immediately aroused Zhang Hulan's vigilance, because what he said was very similar to the task in Baihu village they had just completed. Similar to the devil fruit that can give the user extremely strong abilities after eating, the self-cultivation furnace made by Ma Xianhong in Baihu village can also transform ordinary people into aliens. However, through Zhang Hulan's long-term observation, there are not very few people with the ability of devil fruits. It seems that wherever you go, there are a large number of people with the ability of devil fruits. Could it be that there is no so-called alien red line in their world? And when the company asked to eliminate was the red line theory proposed in Baihu village a scam from the beginning? Zhang Hulan looked at Wang Zhenkaiu, and Wang Zhenkaiu looked back at him with a smile. It seemed that Wang Zhenkaiu was guiding Zhang Hulan to think about this problem step by step. And they are now in the 24 section Tongtian Valley, and this mysterious valley is slowly helping people to walk, so that ordinary people can also feel the existence of qi and the flow of qi in the body. In other words, if guided properly, it is very likely that ordinary people can become extraordinary people. But in the end, those who become extraordinary people will explode and die. Is this the revelation given to us by the content played on the screen? Zhang Hulan fell into deep thought. Chapter 36. Luffy, who had recovered with full health, had just entered the field and launched a fierce combo attack on the Arlong. The Arlong was beaten so hard that he couldn't fight back for a short time. The fishman's strong physical fitness also made it impossible for Luffy to subdue the Arlong with simple moves. The Arlong is proud of its powerful bite ability. Even stones can be crushed. Luffy believes that the most powerful thing about the Arlong is his teeth. So I used tactics to attract his attention. Then he punched the Arlong hard on the chin. Shatter his fangs. But the Arlong is a fishman of the sawtooth shark. Teeth can grow indefinitely. So he grew a full mouth of teeth almost instantly. While the two sides were fighting, they gradually rushed to the base of Arlong Park. On the top floor of the base is Nami's room. It is filled with countless sea charts that Nami has drawn over the years. The Arlong knew that Nami was a genius. She was able to use the data collected by the fishmen in the sea. Draw the nautical chart with unparalleled accuracy. So the Arlong thought that letting Nami join the Straw Hat Pirates, it's a waste of Nami's abilities. In order to build his empire, he wants to use Nami as a tool until she dies. Luffy slowly picked up a pen from the ground. That pen is what Nami uses to draw nautical charts. But now there are bloodstains on the pen. This means that Nami was imprisoned here by the Arlong and was doing extremely intensive work. I didn't stop until my fingers started bleeding. In other words, deep in the Arlong's heart, he didn't treat Nami as a human being at all. It's a tool that you can use, a very useful tool. This idea completely annoyed Luffy. Luffy started to destroy the room in front of the Arlong. Destroy all the nautical charts that were drawn with great difficulty. Those are the Arlong's treasures. He simply doesn't understand what Straw Hat Luffy is doing. Luffy's idea is also very simple. The reason why Nami didn't become her own navigator or partner. Because he was locked in this room. This room is what makes her cry. The culprit who caused her pain. So Luffy has to completely destroy this place. Finally, Luffy used the rubber battle axe to knock the Arlong directly from the roof to the ground. The base of the Arlong Park also collapsed. The whole building collapsed. Luffy stood on the ruins, shouting at Nami, who was in tears. "Nami, you are my partner." At this time, the Rat Colonel of the Navy wanted to steal the fruits of victory but was beaten by Zoro and Nami, who finally woke up and beat him up. They could only return to the naval base in disgrace. Colonel Mouse held a grudge. A wanted poster for the pirate Luffy and his crew was made overnight. They are wanted in all areas under the jurisdiction of the world government. This is also the first time that Straw Hat Luffy and his crew received a bounty. At this moment, Nami decided to join the Straw Hat Pirates. He got a new tattoo on his left arm to cover the scar. His tattoos are oranges and windmills. A mystery was also solved in the memories of the small-town policeman Kensuke. That's why he always has a windmill on his head. That dates back to when Nami was still in her infancy. At that time, she had just been brought back from the battlefield by her adoptive mother. As a police assistant, I also want to see this cute baby. I just don't know why Nami burst into tears when she saw his face. Yelling to calm the crying baby. Policeman Kensuke pinned a windmill on his hat. And looking at the windmill spinning constantly. Nami, who was still a baby, showed the brightest smile. This is also Kensuke, the angelic smile he has ever seen. The third of the top 10 tear-jerking scenes in One Piece, Nami's Tears End. The Food Hunter Plane. Alu and his group, who were looking for the century soup, had been paying attention to the screen above their heads. However, a food hunter who was only interested in food would not be easily attracted by other things. However, the story about oranges and windmills touched a soft spot in Alu's heart. Once upon a time, when he was still struggling to pursue food, he encountered many hardships and difficulties, and the best meal he had eaten was a plate of fried rice that person brought to him. Tears gradually flowed from Xiao Song and Alu's eyes, and they seemed to know what was constantly inspiring them to pursue food. It was that smiling face. It was the smile on everyone's face after eating the food. Although it is said that there are ways to get rid of hunger in the food world. But being able to taste the top delicacies and make those foods into his own life menu. Alu felt that this life was enough. In order to become a top chef, Xiao Song also wanted to see the indescribable joy and happiness on others' faces after eating the food he made. This is the highest honor as a chef, which is much more important than money, fame, and wealth. At this moment, they no longer waste time, wiped away the tears in their eyes, and headed deep into the cave, where they were waiting for the capture of a high-level beast. At the same time, after defeating the guardian beast, they could obtain the indispensable soup in the ALU life menu. Dragon Ball Plane. At the beginning, Chi-Chi agreed to let Gohan and her husband Goku practice in the Spirit Time Chamber together. It was also out of consideration for the future of mankind, but she actually didn't want her son to participate in such dangerous things. Gohan is more suitable as a scholar to explore the unknown of this world, rather than becoming a fighter to fight those unknown creatures that don't know where they come from, because fighting is endless and will only bring cruelty and destruction. Only by becoming a scholar and constantly exploring those unknown energy sources for the benefit of mankind can they make them happier. This is why Chi-Chi has always opposed her husband's training of Gohan into a warrior. Although they all have Saiyan blood flowing in their bodies. As a fighting nation, their lives are constantly looking for strong people and fighting and practicing with them, and then fighting again. Over and over again, endlessly. But as a mother, she still doesn't want her children to be exposed to danger. Out of the instinct of maternal love, she even hopes to experience this pain again and again on behalf of her son, but it's a pity that he is an earthling after all. Even if he has martial arts, he can't reach the height of science. The battle will eventually disappear. For the better future of his children, Gohan must continue to work hard to cultivate himself into an excellent and polite person. Although it will indirectly turn Mystic Fan into Nobita Fan. When new enemies appear, he can no longer exert his childhood abilities. But out of a mother's selfishness, she would rather choose the latter. Chi-Chi patted her face, and then began to prepare a large table of sumptuous dinner for the father and son who had just returned from the Temple of Heaven. The appetite of the father and son is comparable to that of the people in this city. Chapter 37. Tian originally wanted to finish watching this short video as quickly as possible, but he didn't expect to be so fascinated by it that he fell asleep at 2 or 3 in the morning, and it was already bright when he woke up. Tian glanced at the time on his mobile phone and found that it was almost the time he and his ex-girlfriend agreed to meet. After he finished watching the short video last night, the reward issued by the system had arrived. This time it was still a cash reward, and the amount was higher than the last time. The system transferred a full 1 million to his bank card. Unfortunately, the free lottery was not activated this time, and his ability to listen to other people's voices would expire in a few hours. This made Tian a headache. There was no time to watch another short video, and if he changed the meeting time, his ex-girlfriend would probably become suspicious, and then she would directly bring others to break into his current rental house. That would probably put Tian in a dilemma. Even if he could hide away. As the saying goes, you don't worry about thieves stealing, you worry about thieves thinking about it. This group of people with ulterior motives must be dealt with in a short time. Really, when I broke up with her, I forgot that I had applied for a secondary card for my bank card, and the secondary card was bound to the other party's mobile phone number. It must be that when I received the reward, the other party received the text message, which made her value me so much. In order not to force himself into a dead end, Tian planned to take the initiative, but the most important thing now is not to accumulate wealth, but to gain other abilities besides money, so Tian began to ask if the system has a store system. According to Tian, who has read online novels for many years, every system must have a store, so that you can buy what you need with money or points. The host is detected to be applying to open the store system, and the system is preparing. The system is ready, inviting the host to enter the store system. After the system's voice ended, Tian suddenly felt that his eyes went dark, as if he had fallen into an endless abyss in an instant, and when he woke up again, countless exquisite shelves appeared around him. It all looked so real, but the products were placed in a huge bubble, and no matter how he touched it, he couldn't break the seemingly fragile bubble. Tian looked carefully and found that there were too many things in the bubble, including weapons of various comic characters, various skill cards, and experience cards under the skill cards, which could reduce some of his expenses, and there were also various martial arts secrets in it. As long as he got one casually, he could walk sideways in the real world. It's a pity that he took a look and found that the prices marked on these bubbles were all hundreds of billions of yuan. Such a terrible price, even the world's richest man probably can't afford it. Not to mention that he can only rely on the short video system to brush his pocket money. Instead of looking at those unrealistic things, it's better to find something you can afford. Soon Tian set his sights on the weapons area. From the most basic knives and guns to large weapons, and even sci-fi weapons and legendary weapons, there is everything. As long as you can afford the price, you can transform yourself from head to toe here, and even arm yourself to the teeth. With these equipment, becoming the Iron Man of the new era is no longer a dream. It's a pity that the price of these weapons is closer to real use, the lower the price. For example, the kitchen knife in front of him is only 30 yuan. But Tian can't fight with his ex-girlfriend with a kitchen knife. In this case, it is very likely that his small body will be pressed to the ground and rubbed by those strong men as soon as he raised the knife. So he looked at some more guns, but these guns looked very eye-catching. If you carry 2 guns, holding an AK in one hand and a rifle in the other hand and walk on the street, you may be arrested on the spot by the uncle in the big hat. This is not what you want in a day. After all, you have to be a law-abiding citizen in the real world, and he can't explain why he has so many weapons for no reason. Tian sighed, feeling that although the store system had sufficient goods, its practical use was very limited, so he called up the system for screening. The system had just updated the big AI model and intelligently recommended the best strategy to solve the current problem. At this time, a virtual figure wearing a tall black hat appeared in front of Tian. According to the needs of the host, the system intelligently recommends the following 3 options. First, spend 1.5 million yuan to get a Wing Chun Grandmaster Skills 1-week experience card. Second, spend 1 million to draw a lottery. Third, spend 800,000 to get the 13 Taebao Golden Bell cover, a 1-week experience card. Looking at the 3 options recommended by the system, Tian fell into deep thought. The first option costs more but is biased towards an attack strategy. He can subdue those strong men by means. The second is a pure gambling option. Only those who have absolute confidence in their luck will choose it. The third is a pure sandbag option. Make yourself a being that will not be killed by the opponent in a short time. How to think about it is so aggrieved, so Tian directly spent 1.5 million on his account to exchange for the same Grandmaster level Wing Chun 1-week experience card as Master Ye Wen. After preparation, he withdrew all the amounts in his account. In addition to carrying 20,000 cash with him, the rest are in the safe he bought. After all, Tian doesn't trust the people in the banking system who sold his personal information to his ex-girlfriend. In order to avoid any trouble in the future, it is best to keep the cash at home. When the time comes, Tian will set up a company and make the corresponding accounts, so as to avoid being reported by people with ulterior motives in the future. Report the source of a large amount of unknown funds. At that time, he will be able to have an explanation. After preparing everything, Tian put on a set of fitted jackets and a pair of comfortable sneakers, so that even after the fight, Tian can ensure his flexibility and will not suffer in front of the group of strong men. So Tian finally took a taxi and came to the coffee shop mentioned by his ex-girlfriend. As soon as Tian got off the car, he saw his girlfriend sitting in a corner of the coffee shop and waving at him. Looking at the smile on her face, if he could not hear the real voice of his ex-girlfriend, it is very likely that Tian would be deceived again and become his ex-girlfriend's licking dog. In the end, when this scumbag eats himself up, he will discard him again, like throwing away garbage, and the woman will not even look at him again. As soon as Tian opened the door, he saw that his ex-girlfriend's eyes looked at the parking lot outside the coffee shop from time to time, and the Wuling Hongguang was parked at that location. This guy finally came. I thought he would be timid and would not come to see me. Now that he is out, we can't let him go easily. When we get to the hotel, my cousin and his friends in the car can take action. Although the ex-girlfriend was smiling when she looked at Tian, the voice in her heart had already betrayed her. Chapter 38. Tian politely sat opposite his ex-girlfriend and greeted him politely. Long time no see, how have you been recently? The ex-girlfriend seemed to be much more proactive than Tian. She deliberately pulled her seat closer to Tian, and then deliberately moved her body slowly closer to Tian's arm. The elastic female skin touched Tian's fingers holding the coffee cup intentionally or unintentionally. And at this moment, her eyes seemed to be able to spit out fire, it was passionate. It was as if, in the next second, she could pounce on Tian and give him a baby. Is this the power of love? No, this is the power of money. Tian sneered unconsciously. He always restrained himself and kept a reasonable social distance with his ex-girlfriend, but the ex-girlfriend looked very dissatisfied. She didn't eat a few bites of the dessert that had just been served. She dragged Tian to the cinema to watch a movie. Eating, watching a movie, and booking a room. This is a rather cliched process for contemporary young couples. However, many post-2000s who have just entered the society prefer more styles, such as shooting ranges, party halls, and board game halls. Their social venues are becoming more and more diverse, but Tian is almost 30 years old, and he has been with his ex-girlfriend for quite a while, plus his ex-girlfriend is impatient. The two of them still followed the old routine. At first, Tian was a little curious, why didn't his ex-girlfriend just take him to the hotel to set up a honey trap, but went through the process here with him? After a while, his ex-girlfriend's voice exposed her little tricks. I have been with Tian for many years and I know that he is a very sensitive person. If I rashly take him directly to the hotel, he will probably become suspicious, and then there will be a quarrel or even he will leave in anger, and then all my previous preparations may be wasted. I must carefully awaken his feelings for me step by step. When he lets down all his defenses, it will be time for me to close the net. After hearing the voice of his ex-girlfriend, Tian was a little impressed by her. After being with her for so many years, he didn't even realize that his ex-girlfriend was so scheming. It seems that he has learned a lot from those female anchors. Not only has he learned high-end psychological control skills, but he has also learned how to commit crimes in groups. Tian has been paying attention to the movements around him. He soon discovered that there were several burly men who always appeared around him not far away, but they pretended to look at the scenery on the roadside or buy things in a convenience store, and their eyes were always intentionally or unintentionally looking towards him. They glanced in the direction he and his ex-girlfriend had mentioned, which exposed their intentions. Unfortunately, they were too far away, so Tian couldn't hear their thoughts at all. If they really had to fight, it would be bad if they accidentally injured a few passers-by. So Tian endured his temper and waited until he and his ex-girlfriend arrived at the hotel before taking action. So the two groups of people, each with their own ulterior motives, finally got through a long and boring movie segment. Because it was not a holiday at all, the cinema did not choose any popular movies when scheduling the films, so he and his ex-girlfriend watched a documentary in a dry way. The documentary is about protecting the Earth's ecology and restoring species diversity. The boringness of this film makes Tian feel drowsy, but he really doesn't dare to fall asleep completely, for fear that his ex-girlfriend will bring in outsiders when he is asleep. Although Tian knows that they dare not do it in the cinema in broad daylight. However, at the entrance of the cinema or in the blind spots of the cinema toilet, it is very likely that they will be beaten up by these people. Maybe they are not setting up a trap, but directly changing to kidnapping. Although it is now a society ruled by law and there are surveillance cameras all over the streets, it is inevitable that there are some blind spots for surveillance. Moreover, as the person involved, Tian is wandering alone and has no relatives at all. Even if he has been missing for a month or two, no one will find him. So Tian has been alert. Even if he goes to the toilet, he chooses the public toilet on the second floor of the shopping mall instead of the toilet in the cinema. Reality proves that Tian's worries are also very correct, because there are several burly men hiding in the cubicle of the cinema toilet, who are the ones who followed them before. So after the movie was over, the ex-girlfriend finally couldn't hold back the passion in her heart. Tian, we haven't seen each other for a long time. It's late today. How about we get a room and stay for a while? We haven't been in touch for a long time. Let's take this opportunity to get to know each other better. The ex-girlfriend's words were extremely provocative. Tian couldn't resist the ex-girlfriend's enchanting figure, sexy and charming, and the feminine charm emanating from her whole body, so Tian pretended to be a pig-headed man with horny brains. He followed his ex-girlfriend and got on an online taxi. At the ex-girlfriend's signal, the driver drove the car to a remote hotel. The hotel owner was no longer surprised by young couples like them. Tian looked at his ex-girlfriend and asked, "Why did you come to such a shabby hotel? Why don't we go to a bigger hotel?" Originally, Tian just wanted to test it out, but he didn't expect his ex-girlfriend to break through his defense and grab his arm and hug him in her arms. She put Tian's arm on her chest. Tian immediately felt an extremely soft and warm touch on his arm. His ex-girlfriend deliberately said to him in a coquettish voice, "Tian, I know you've been a little tight financially lately, and I just paid the rent. Don't force yourself. I can accept this kind of environment." Although the ex-girlfriend acted like a good girl, the voice in her heart had already betrayed him. "Let's go into the house quickly. Stop talking nonsense. This hotel is owned by my third uncle. He has already turned off the surveillance cameras. No matter what happens here, no trace will be left. My eldest cousin and his men have already been lying in ambush in the next room, waiting for my signals so that they can rush in." Although the ex-girlfriend looks very innocent on the surface, the vicious thoughts in her mind make Tian shudder. Tian calmed himself down, but was still pulled into the room by the ex-girlfriend half-heartedly. As soon as he entered the room, the ex-girlfriend started to take off her shirt. Then she messed up her hair. "Otherwise, you should go take a shower first. I'll go in and take a shower later," the ex-girlfriend said to Tian while fiddling with her clothes and pretending to undress. Tian didn't pretend anymore and planned to confront his ex-girlfriend directly. He half sat and half lay on the bed and said to his ex-girlfriend in a relaxed tone, "Forget it, stop acting, put your relatives in the room. I have something to do later, so I can't stay with you for long." While Tian was stalling for time with words, he activated the Wing Chun Grandmaster experience card issued by the system in his mind. Soon, a force spread from Danshan to his limbs. This was a powerful force that Tian had never felt before. At this moment, the ex-girlfriend made herself very embarrassed and even tore several holes in her shirt. She finally took off her disguise and looked at Tian with disgust. "Tian, I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. We have already broken up, but you are still touching me here. Help, this is indecent assault, there is a lewd." Before the ex-girlfriend finished speaking, she suddenly felt a huge force coming from her neck, but when she reacted, she realized that she had been captured by Tian. "Take a deep breath, it's normal to feel dizzy." Tian suddenly raised his hand. The ex-girlfriend fainted immediately. Then Tian put the ex-girlfriend on the bed, covered her with a quilt, and waited for others to arrive. Chapter 39. Tian had just put his ex-girlfriend on the bed when he heard hurried footsteps outside the door, followed by knocks on the door. "Open the door, check the room." The voice on the other end sounded very rough. Without opening the door, one could tell that the other party must be a big and strong man, and judging from the footsteps, there were 3 to 4 people on the other side. But at this moment, Tian, who had martial arts skills, was not afraid at all. He first found a chair and propped up the door, not to prevent the other party from breaking in, but because he was worried that he would not leave enough time for himself. If he was too heavy-handed and caused accidental injuries, he would probably be misunderstood by the uncle in the big hat and go to jail. So Tian made a call in advance and reported the relevant situation to the relevant departments. At the same time, Tian took out his mobile phone and entered the shooting mode, pointing the camera in the direction of the door. The knocking on the door on the other side became more urgent, and at the same time there were shouting and cursing. His colleagues, the companion, came to the front desk of the hotel and got a spare master key. In an instant, the electronic lock of the door was swiped open, but because the door was blocked by a chair, they had no way to break in directly. At this moment, the ex-girlfriend's cell phone rang, but no one answered it. The other party might be a little anxious, and actually started to bang on the door, trying to force his way in. Tian stood calmly away from the door, using his mobile phone to record the whole process of the other party breaking in. When the uncle in the big hat comes, he will have evidence to prove his innocence. It was the other party who broke in illegally first, and he was defending himself later. Sure enough, how could the door of the shabby little hotel withstand the kicks and kicks of several burly men, and it didn't take long for the door to be broken. 4 burly men filed in. They looked at the ex-girlfriend lying on the bed. They looked again, and the one holding the mobile phone was Tian, whom they were filming. They were immediately furious, and evil deeds were born. You are trying to pick up my sister, right? You are committing a crime, don't you know? See how I deal with you. Although the big men didn't understand what happened at the scene, they still performed according to the script. Tian didn't answer the other party's questions at all. After all, he couldn't let them lead the rhythm and put himself into the trap of self-proof. He just turned off the camera function of his mobile phone lightly, and then hooked his finger at the 4 big men provocatively. Come here. The 4 big men were at the age of blood and vigor, how could they bear such provocation? They immediately picked up the wooden sticks and iron bars in their hands and greeted Tian. But it was a pity that no matter how the other party prepared, it was in vain. Tian got the energy bonus of the Wing Chun Grandmaster experience card, and his figure was like a crane in the sky and a monkey in the forest. He easily dodged the opponent's attacks again and again. The opponent did not hold back at all, wanting to cripple Tian in the first time and then force him to ask for the password of the deposit. It was a pity that their plan was stuck at the first step. They had no way to subdue this thin and weak otaku in a short time. Tian's movements were smooth, and every punch hit the opponent's joints. The opponent retreated in pain. These 4 people had no tactical coordination at all. They were completely ordinary people. They just relied on their tall stature and brute force. Tian was not polite to them, raising his legs, straightening his waist, and patting his elbows. A set of Wing Chun directly stunned the 4 big men. Shit, big brother, this is not right. Didn't my sister say that the other party was just an ordinary otaku and was easy to deal with? This is obviously a martial artist. Some of the 4 big men immediately began to back off. After all, they were just asked to hold the scene, and they didn't say they would fight with real swords and guns. Not yet, when the ex-girlfriend's cousin replied, a black shadow appeared in front of him. Before he could see clearly what it was, he was punched hard on the cheek. His body was about to retreat, but his hand was grabbed by Tian again. The sturdy man was forcibly pulled back, and then he was hit hard in the chest with an elbow. The elbow almost made the sturdy man suffocate, and the sturdy man's body naturally bent down, and then Tian quickly raised his leg and hit the other party in the face with his thigh. His accomplices were stunned. The whole process took only a few seconds, and they hadn't reacted to what was going on. Their eldest brother was knocked down by the seemingly fragile otaku. They were all subdued without any effort on Tian's part. From their mouths, Tian learned the complete plan. In fact, their original plan was for these big men and the ex-girlfriend to set up a trap to deceive Tian. They first used the ex-girlfriend's proposal of getting back together to make Tian lustful. After Tian was taken to the small hotel, both parties began to undress and rekindle the passionate years of that year. At this time, the strong men led people into the room and controlled Tian. Then the ex-girlfriend would pretend to be violated and throw herself into the arms of those strong men. After all, they were cousins. Even if the uncle with the big hat came, he would not stand on Tian's side. The only difficulty in the whole thing is that there can be no surveillance video evidence in the whole process. At the same time, it can be done in the shortest possible time. Within a certain time, Tian must be subdued and not allowed to talk or shout. So the ex-girlfriend and the others planned to trick Tian to a place they had prepared in advance. This hotel is the property of the ex-girlfriend's family, and these strong men will be able to easily get the key to open this door. Moreover, they can turn off the surveillance here. Even if Tian calls the police, he will not be able to produce any evidence. Instead, he will be bitten back by the ex-girlfriend's family. They will sue him for forcibly insulting women. Even if Tian sues at that time, it will be of no avail. Although the plan is very detailed, it cannot withstand the supernatural power that Tian has obtained through the system. This group of burly men were all knocked down by Tian within a minute. They were completely crushed in terms of force. After all, a Wing Chun master level strength can easily beat 10 people, not to mention that he has no martial arts skills. 4 strong men with solid skills. The whole process of them breaking the door was also recorded in detail by Tian on his mobile phone. Their conspiracy was broken. The uncles in the big hats arrived at the hotel half an hour later. At first, they were intercepted by the hotel owner, but it didn't take long for him to be persuaded by force. When the uncles in the big hats entered the room, they saw the young man who called the police, smiling and greeting them, while the strong men who looked twice as big as him were squatting in the corner with their hands on their heads. A man and a woman were lying on the beds. They looked like they had been asleep for a long time. After Tian provided the video evidence, the uncles in the big hats took away the strong men and the brother and sister who were still sleeping. Their captain walked to Tian and praised him. "Little brother, you are quite skilled. We have been targeting this group of people for a long time. Many single young people have been deceived by them with beauty traps and have been cheated in this hotel. I heard that the cumulative amount has reached hundreds of thousands. It is enough to keep them in jail for a while. Thank you for your cooperation." Tian did not stay for long. He just followed the uncle in the big hat to the bureau to take notes, and then hurried back to his rental house. After all, his ability was gradually disappearing. There was only 1 week, which was too unsatisfying. In order to get more rewards, Tian reopened the short video. Chapter 40. One Piece's top 10 tear-jerking scenes. The fourth one, the mark on the arm is the proof of a partner. After the Straw Hat Pirates defeated Arlong, thoroughly established the reputation of the Straw Hat Pirates in the East Blue Sea. Even the Navy headquarters was alarmed. The Navy headquarters is known as the Meeting King. Commodore Branny held an emergency meeting with all the Navy. Originally in the weak East Blue Sea where the average bounty was no more than 5 million. 3 pirate tycoons with bounties exceeding 10 million have appeared one after another. Killed by a rookie. That new guy is Luffy the Straw Hat Boy. So the Navy headquarters issued a new bounty for Straw Hat Luffy. Luffy's bounty exceeds that of Buggy the Clown, Pirate Governor Creek, and even the Fishman Pirate Arlong. As a newcomer, he reached a very high bounty of 30 million Baileys. This is in the overall weak East Blue Sea. It's a high amount that's enough to drive bounty hunters crazy. Luffy and the others were not in a hurry to go to the Grand Line. I want to be well prepared before this. Among them, supplies, ammunition, equipment, and repair materials all need to be replenished. In order to exchange their previously accumulated treasures for useful materials in a timely manner. Their next destination is the place where Pirate King Roger was born and sentenced to death. The beginning of the Age of Exploration. Known as the Town of Beginning and End, Rogue Town. Nami went shopping for some beautiful clothes. Sanji went to buy some ingredients. Zoro needs to buy 2 new swords. After all, his previous knife was chopped into pieces by Hawkeye. Usopp bought some ammunition and repair tools. After all, the Straw Hat Pirates don't have a ship repairman yet. So Usopp has been working part-time as this person. When Zoro went to buy a suitable sword, I met a girl who looked very similar to my childhood sweetheart, Kuina. The reason why Zoro wanted to become the greatest swordsman in the world was because of his dead companion, Kuina. Although the budget was very tight, he still came to the weapon shop. The boss is a very mercenary person. When he heard that Zoro had only taken 10 berries, immediately put on a sour face. But soon his attitude changed. When he accidentally glanced at the Wado Ikimonji that Zoro was wearing. I want to buy it at a very low price. But I didn't expect to be disrupted by the girl who looked like Kuina. And with her popular science, Zoro finally knew that there are many famous swords in this world. There are 12 supreme swords, 21 large sharp swords and 50 good sharp swords. The sword in Zoro's hand is the Wado Ikemonji, one of the great swords. But Zoro's budget is limited. I can only choose 2 knives as my weapons from a group of rags. On the girl's recommendation, Zoro chose the Sandai Kaititsu from a bunch of ordinary swords. But the shop owner refused to sell it to him, saying that the sword was a demon sword. From him, I learned that most people who owned this Sandai Kaititsu died in an accident. Zoro depends on his luck. Can you suppress this demon sword? So he threw the 3rd generation ghost car directly into the sky. Then stretch your arms. As long as the Sandai Kaititsu didn't cut off his arm, he will put this knife in his pocket. As if blessed by the goddess of fate, the knife just passed his arm and stabbed diagonally into the floor. Only the knife handle is left on the ground. This powerful luck shocked even the boss. The boss saw at a glance that Zoro was no ordinary person. He changed his previous behavior and took the initiative to offer the treasure of his shop. Snow Walker, one of the best swords. The very mercenary shop owner didn't charge a penny. His reason is very simple. A man entrusts his dreams to another man. What's wrong with this? As the saying goes, a good sword is matched with its master. The Plane of Death. Due to the invasion of the Invisible Empire, the 13th squad of the Godii was severely damaged. Lucia Kukaki, Byakuya Kukaki, Renji Abarai, and others were all severely injured to varying degrees, and the Zero Squad rushed down from the Soul King Palace to take the wounded away. Ichigo Kurosaki's favorite sword, Tensa Zangetsu, was also broken by Waiwak, and any Zanpakuto that was broken in the Bankai state. There is no way to restore it to its original appearance, and the only one who can help him rebuild a new Zanpakuto is Nime Yaritsuo of the Zero Squad. Ichigo Kurosaki looked at the screen in the sky, which showed the scene of Zoro, who had lost his favorite sword, getting a new sword. This also encouraged Ichigo Kurosaki to cheer up again. Zangetsu, I will bring you back to my side. Ichigo Kurosaki made up his mind to revive Zangetsu no matter how much hardship he had to endure, so he followed the Zero Squad to the Soul King Palace to practice. JoJo Dimension. Yasuke and others were very confused about the frustration that Zoro showed after losing his sword. They also felt incredible about the legendary evil sword of the Kaititsu series. There shouldn't be a demon sword like the 3rd generation ghost car in this world. I think this situation is completely fabricated. Kaorichi is considered to have better academic performance among the protagonists. He has studied the history of his country and knows the legend of the Muramasa demon sword. But in real life, he has never seen anything like it. At this time, Mr. Jotaro, who was sitting silently, suddenly spoke up. Many years ago, I saw a demon sword similar to his. But that sword was actually a stand user. Jotaro looked at the horizon and gradually fell into memories. That was what happened when they went on an expedition to Egypt to fight Dio. At that time, Polnareff, who was a stand user, obtained a peerless sword, but he didn't expect that this sword had the power to control people's hearts. The sword itself was a stand user named Anubis. At that time, he also took great efforts to seal the sword at the bottom of the Nile River. If it can control people's hearts, it can even stimulate the limits of the human body. It is very likely that the 3rd generation of Kaititsu is the same as that Anubis. But what Jotaro didn't expect was that the swordsman named Zoro could suppress the fierce aura emanating from the 3rd generation of Kaititsu. It seems that the man is really a rare talent. In the future, he will definitely be able to break out a path that belongs to him.